And we are live. So, hello everyone. Welcome if you're watching this on YouTube. I'm Fozzy Does Things. This is the FozCast. Can't talk properly. Great start. Ed, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm the TheBigEzyEduardo from the land down under, helping Foz out on his first FozCast. It's going to be an interesting first time I've ever done a podcast, let alone a FozCast. So
we'll see how this goes.
Should be interesting.
We'll see how this goes with the chat. Obviously, we can have like chat input on things. They'll have opinions on stuff we say. We can talk about that. The chat will pop up in the bottom left of the screen when people start coming in and talking. I don't know if you can see that. But yeah. So as you can see, the first FozCast is based around media, the best and worst media of the decade, the 2010s. Anything from movies, TV shows, video games, music albums, pretty much anything goes. We can even go over our favourite streamers if we want, why we think they're good. So, Ed, I don't know if you have anything you want to start with, like a certain topic where you've got more things written down, or like thoughts.
The first one that I probably thought of, which is probably the top five, made my top five, was a basket of games, and it was more of the later PS4 exclusives. So it was like Spider-Man, God of War, and Horizon Zero Dawn. They for me were definitely top five games of PS4. I know like Horizon Zero Dawn is the first game that I've probably put in 200 hours into, which is pretty a lot of hours for an open world. That was as of the last playthrough that I did the other week. I think what Sony have done with their exclusives has been amazing. They just seem to get better and better. I haven't played a bad one since, like we said, with Horizon Zero Dawn being the first one that came out, and then God of War was just amazing. I think how much time and effort they actually give to the developers to go off and do those games is super impressive when you compare it to what Microsoft do for Xbox and Nintendo. It's kind of, they're on a whole different level. Probably Nintendo sits off to one side because it is Nintendo and they've got that nostalgia, and they've got a probably different...
It's a different vibe, isn't it? Completely.
Different vibe completely. So it's more against when you battle it against the Xbox and PlayStation, the exclusives are something else. I think, I've put a lot of time into those games, and I've only really been back gaming since I've been streaming. That's probably the past 18 months, 2 years. And for 2 or 3 games to really take up a lot of that time, which are games you play once or twice through and that's it. But yeah, I just keep on going back to them. So they're really probably the first of my top 5, really for media and games. I was going to talk about just one or two, but I think the whole probably sticking into a genre is probably more applicable for what it is. I think it's a lot easier to talk about, and yes, that's my top 5 to get the ball rolling.
It seems like Sony have gone out as well and looked for these specific studios to make these games. I mean, some of the studios they've got for the exclusivity deals are insane. Like, you look at The Last of Us, you look at God of War. I mean, they've got Hideo Kojima. Some people think Death Stranding's like a bit controversial. I can't honestly say I've played it. But, they go out and they get these huge names and they keep them coming back. You look at, is it Naughty Dog, who make The Last of Us? They keep them coming back to PlayStation every single time. And you look at what Microsoft's done in terms of exclusives, and they've actually had some absolute stinkers in comparison to PlayStation. They've had some massive, massive stinkers. I mean, for me, Gears of War 1 to 3 was one of my favourite franchises ever. And now Gears of War 4 and 5 just seem to... I don't know, the coalition who have gained the development of that game have just ruined it. And you look at Xbox, they're trying to push this Game Pass model. And there are some good games on there, and Microsoft are acquiring some good developers. But in these last two generations, you look at some of the exclusives PlayStation's had. You look at Beyond Two Souls, things like Heavy Rain, Detroit Become Human. I've been watching a friend play that. That game is phenomenal. Every playthrough I've watched of it, I've enjoyed. I've enjoyed watching it over and over and over again. And this time around, this decade, Xbox hasn't really had that many games that have made me feel like that I think are that great in terms of exclusives. Like you said, Spider-Man, Gears of War, they've been insane. I mean, the replayability of those games as well, like you say, even with them being a lot of them being open world, is insane.
Yeah, I've got a clip of Horizon Zero Dawn when I first played it, and there's the amount of time and attention to detail they've put into it, and they've given their devs to go off and do. There's one part where you've got to find an item, and you've got to scale up this pretty much shell of a building, and I suffer from vertigo.
Right.
And by the time I got to the top, I was shaking. I was it felt like I climbed myself. I was like, it's ridiculous of how much for a game to an exclusive game that they put that much effort into to actually force you to feel invoke a fear that you've got.
That immersiveness of it, yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy, and I think that's one thing they do really well is they give Sony give their devs time to finish off games. You look at The Last of Us 2. That's The Last of Us Part
Delayed,
1
yeah.
came out in what is it, 2013?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so I think I got game of the year in 2013, and it's now 2020, and yeah, it's been delayed to the point where it probably annoys a few people that it's still going to be a PS4 title, but they'll probably push it back so it can be like a PS5 crossover, because it's
and that's it.
It's been delayed though.
We've seen a lot of these games being delayed recently. Cyberpunk has just been announced that they're delaying that back to September. I think June, correct me if I'm wrong, was the original release for that, and they've moved that back, so that's looking like it might be a next gen crossover too.
Yeah, because that was the same with Final Fantasy VII, the remake of that's been pushed back to the first week of April, and that was slated for I've had that on pre-order since I think October 2016.
But as a consumer and someone who's pre-ordered that game, you'd rather them push that game back and it be great and finished and polished when it comes out, right? You wouldn't.
Oh, without a doubt, I think there's been too many, especially in 2019. That's when we get to there is devs trying to push games out and get them released and release them
being shit shows, pretty much,
and not finished. There's been a few games that I've found in the past probably 12 or 18 months which have been rushed out, which at a core have been really good games, but have been rushed out, and the fans have spoken and they've bombed. But they're games when you go back and and you play them a bit more, and you don't listen to the white noise and realize they're actually good games. If they actually spend a bit more time to push it back, even a couple of months, they would have come back and been perfect games. But yeah, the beauty of PlayStation and a lot of those especially with new gen consoles coming out, they're probably better off pushing them back by a couple of months. I mean, end of the day, people will want a good game. So
So one thing I was going to talk about was I was going to leave all these to the end of the episode. I was going to talk about like the biggest media disappointments of this like the decade. But as soon as we're going on about games that have like bombed out, I feel like we've like sort of naturally progressed onto that level of the conversation. So, is there any what games for you in the 2010s were you looking to like forward to that you thought were going to be great, and then they just like fizzled out? They were shit. Any absolute stinkers that like come to your mind straight away when I say that?
I think the first one is firstly what's going on, Rain. What's going on? The first one that I really think of, which was, I mean, it wasn't a bad game, but it was. I think there was a few in 2019 in general, which could have been thought out, and probably the main one, which a lot of people talk about, and it's not a game that I really beat up too much to try and defend it, which is Anthem. That's like nuts and bolts of it. That's a really fun game when you get into it. But in saying that, when you're doing a lot of the open world stuff, you realize that the even still they haven't quite updated it properly. It feels very empty. If that makes any sense.
So, do you feel like EA, because there was a lot of backlash about that game, do you think EA sort of, or the developers, I know the developers, not EA, but the producer, do you think they knew that there was so much backlash, everyone said that game was an absolute trash fire. With them not updating that, do you think that's because they knew no one was going to come back to that game? It was already like all the nails were in the coffin. It was done with.
Yeah, I think with just how bad the backlash was, is that it's probably why they abandoned the roadmap.
Right.
I mean, because no one will ever really know what they had in plan for it, and you're seeing more and more kind of events come through for Anthem, which seem pretty fun, which seem pretty cool. I haven't played too much of it of late, but from what I understand, they're almost going down the same route that Final Fantasy 11 went. So when Final Fantasy 11 came out, I think it was early 2010. Same thing, was absolutely half baked. Square Enix Final Fantasy's first shot at an MMO to try and rival WoW. Got absolutely bagged out. So Square Enix and the guys from Final Fantasy went back and came up with Final Fantasy 14. And now with the last expansion for Final Fantasy 14 that came out this year, is that a lot more people are actually going from WoW over to Final Fantasy 14. They're all saying that what Square Enix have done, if they've gone off and they've fixed that problem, they actually listened, and rather than try and uh, fix something that was so severely broken, was to start again. And that's what they're thinking about doing with Anthem, because I think they worked out that the nuts and bolts for Anthem is good, but the whole kind of trying to fix something that's so severely broken is just, they're never going to win with it. So yeah, I think going off and starting again with it was, and wait, and actually putting the time and effort into it, what they come back with is going to be worthwhile. But yeah, that was one game which they just tried to rush out the door too quick. I think it was probably more EA more than BioWare.
Yeah.
And just EA knowing that they had a game that they could get like a heap of micro transactions through. It's kind of like in between the FIFAs and NFLs coming out, because they usually generally come out in September, so it's come out in February. So it's kind of like that half year kind of, let's get something else through to kind of push through with some microtransactions, get a few more, do a bit more cash grab, and they shouldn't have done it. If they kind of waited a few more months, they could have made a lot more money out of it. But
yeah, I mean, speaking of another EA title that's been pretty big over the last year or two, you've got Apex Legends. Now that is a free-to-play game, so obviously that game is kind of dependent on microtransactions to live, to pay developers, keep the upkeep of the game. I know you're a big advocate for the single-player games like campaigns. What do you think about Apex Legends?
I haven't played it. I've got it downloaded. Something like Apex, I can see the what's the word? I can see
The appeal.
The appeal to it. Like I've never been a massive battle royale player until probably earlier on in the year when I started playing Realm Royale and that was the first one that I've ever played. And if they make one of those games properly that's free to play for those microtransactions, I don't have an issue with it.
You don't mind paying them if the game's free.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it when the game's free. It's like, I know that I've bought one or two things out of Realm Royale, which I'm like, yeah, it's actually, I'll actually, don't mind paying for it. They weren't that expensive type thing, because you're earning like the coins or whatever, like the in-game currency.
Yeah.
Wasn't too bad. It was actually, so you didn't feel like you're actually going off and you were playing hours and hours of game, but only for like a little reward for that type of thing. You were actually, when it came to actually buying some loot, it was maybe $6 or $7 compared to 14 or 15. And it's, I'd only been playing the game for I was playing on PC, and I would have only been playing for maybe a month, 6 weeks. So I was like, yeah, for something like that where you're paying next to nothing, it's actually all right, and you get a whole season out of it. It makes sense. It's actually quite a good business model, as long as they're actually um, sending out updates for the game and actually keeping it going, and keeping the experience for the gamer the way it's meant to be.
Using that income to better the game, opposed to just keeping the money and then keeping the game exactly the same the whole time.
And that's it. It's kind of like FIFA or something like that with the Ultimate Teams, where it's kind of
people spend fortunes on that game, insane amounts.
Fortune on it for which is ridiculous. Or you go off and you end up paying next to nothing for a battle royale, because they are super addictive. And if you kind of get through a season where you might have spent $30, I mean, you haven't paid anything for the game. So really, the game for the space of how long a season is only worked out to be $30, which for games like Apex and games like Realm Royale, that's actually decent value for money, the way that I look at it anyway. So
I mean, there's no doubt that BRs have been an insane, there's been a massive takeover of them in the last 2 or 3 years. You look at it, it started with Armor, and then Armor was modded, I believe, into PUBG. I could be wrong. And when I think about it, that's the first. Oh, and you had H1Z1. They had those were the 2 or 3 starting points, and now we're at this point where the category is starting to become kind of oversaturated with things like Fortnite. You've got Apex. You had Call of Duty in Black Ops 4, who brought out their own battle royale. In Blackout. A lot of people, even Battlefield had an attempt at it at one point. I think it was in Battlefield 5. They had their own sort of spin on it, which died out very quickly because it wasn't very good. Obviously, with most of these battle royales being free, they have to make the money somewhere. But for me, what really gets me about the battle royale is the format of the game is always the same. However many players going down into a map, and you all kill each other. So it's kind of difficult to make something different and original at this point. I mean, Fortnite did that, as much as I hate to say it, and I don't like the game. They did that with the building aspect. It makes for like those 1v1s. Apex gave all the characters like their own different abilities. But there's only so many times you can do it. That battle royale format before it's like anything, you do it so many times, you will eventually repeat something someone else has done. And it's really hard to get out of that habit and do something original. Like Chris has just said in the chat, Apex was good for a little bit, but it sort of left you underwhelmed. For me, it's one of those games like I go back to once a month maybe when I'm bored of everything else. BRs, they're just easy, aren't they? There's something you can jump in straight out to if you haven't got a lot of time to play. Like you can just be in and out of games fast. There's not like a massive time commitment to them.
I kind of go back to Realm Royale. You know, I think I played my first game of it in like a month the other day. I think I played 1 or 2 games and that was it. And probably won't play it for another month or so, and then I'll jump in and have a few more games. It's kind of after a while they get quite repetitive, and I give kudos to people that can, you know, play Fortnite or Apex, or any of those type of games on repeat, like day in day out. It's kind of, I don't know. People say, "Oh, how can you go through and play 200 hours on an open world like Horizon Zero Dawn?" But it's kind of like, how can you go off and play 200 hours on?
Yeah, I mean the map
royale. It's kind of the same thing. It's the battle royales, as you said, they're a lot more repetitive.
Yeah, I mean your maps never change. You know, the outcome's always the same. You either go in and you win the game or you lose. With the story-based games like Horizon Zero Dawn, there's always you could play that game for however long and you'll find something new. People are still finding new things in games like Skyrim. You know, that game's been out 10 years, I think, maybe more, on so many different platforms. I mean, Bethesda have milked that game for all it's worth.
Yeah.
And people are still finding new things, you know, new things to do, new areas. I mean, there's some people that know everything about Skyrim, like played that game for over 1,000 hours. Mods, exactly. There's loads of mods in Skyrim. Always something but like different you can do. So the battle royale for me, I hope it's, as harsh as this sounds, I hope it's something we can leave in the 2010s. I'm not gonna lie. I'm expecting Infinity Ward to bring a battle royale to the new Modern Warfare game. A lot of people want it. I personally could live without it. I like Call of Duty Modern Warfare as it is right now. I don't want to give them too much credit just yet because it's still early. Well, kind of early for Infinity Ward. So far, them and Activision have stayed true to... I mean, they brought a battle pass out, which kind of pissed me off because they said they weren't going to like do anything along those lines, like loot boxes, things like that. I mean, you've paid however much for the game, and then they bring out this like £8 or it's like $10 battle pass. But it is all cosmetic items. There's no like pay-to-win guns in there that you can get or stuff like that. So it's pretty good. I'm just hoping Activision don't sort of put their own force on it. If they do, they will ruin a great game. So far, I'm enjoying it. I'm playing it with friends. If Activision like start pushing that, then I will stop playing Modern Warfare. I'm not gonna lie. But talking about other games that have crashed and burned, there's actually so many for this generation that I can think about. Like that just comes straight to my mind. So I'm talking like Destiny and Destiny 2. I was so hyped for those. Like I was so hyped for Destiny 1 when it first came out. I bought the most expensive edition of it. I think it was like £150, like the metal case and everything. And then I got to the end of that game, or like the end game content, I grinded up to like the highest level possible, pretty fast actually. And then it just lacked end game content. It felt like I put 800 hours into Destiny 1, and I just got so like there was a point where I felt like I was doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it wasn't fun anymore. So I just put the game down, and then ever since that point, it like crashed and burned.
Yeah.
Another one that comes straight to my head is The Division as well. Ubisoft, The Division. Very similar case. It lacked end game content. I think 30 was like the max level. I got there. I mean, this is probably my fault. I got there in like 2 days to the max level, and then after that, it took them like 3 or 4 months to actually update the game with any more end game content. Like not even free stuff, like paid content. So I just lost interest with it, and then The Division 2, I never actually picked that game up. Yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2 as well, actually. That was another game where... Red Dead Redemption 1 for me, I actually couldn't believe it. I looked this up because I was looking for my top like 5 or 6 games. Red Dead Redemption 1 actually came out in 2010, I think, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, so they got Game of the Year in 2010.
Yeah, so I've actually put that in one of my top 5s, that Red Dead Redemption 1 was incredible. Like the story of John Marston. Spoiler alert, if you're listening, 3, 2, 1, turn your volume down. The ending of that game was phenomenal, where like he comes out of the barn and there's all them fucking guys and they just light him up and murder him, and then you play as his son Jack, who's actually a massive fucking like annoying pussy. But it's good that you get to go and get revenge on his father's killers. Like, that game is a masterpiece. I even loved the multiplayer in Red Dead Redemption 1. I probably spent like 100 hours playing the multiplayer in that game, just trolling people, like riding around on a horse, blowing people up with dynamite and stuff. And then Red Dead Redemption 2, I can't lie, I think I only got halfway through the story of that game before I gave up with it. I just felt like the characters weren't as interesting or like very well written. Felt like the story wasn't well written at all or driven at all. Like no ambition with it.
Yeah, I've heard that about Red Dead Redemption 2. I actually watched some friends do a playthrough of Red Dead Redemption 2, but they're a little bit left of center. They're a little bit kind of there's an Aussie chick and her husband who's Italian, and they're a little bit mental. So they had this really bizarre approach to it, which actually made it entertaining to watch. But if you just watched the game or wanted to play the game for the story content, it just
I mean,
it was pretty bad.
The characters just seemed so poorly written. I think they added too many characters opposed to focusing on like one character like they did with John Marston and like the small group of people around him, like his wife and his child. His story alone. Like they focused on too many people, in my opinion, in Red Dead 2. And then, like I said, I really enjoyed the online aspect of Red Dead Redemption 1. Then Red Dead Redemption 2, again, a similar problem with the, it's that modern problem of there was barely any end game. Well, there was about 3 or 4 story missions you could do online with your friends. And then that was it. Like, there was nothing else. There was no reason to play the online aspect anymore. Other than, like, a few stranger missions or side missions you could do. And the game just became exactly the same as what happened to GTA 5 online, where everyone's just running around trolling everyone, fucking blowing everyone up. You can't do anything about it. You've just got one guy griefing you the whole game because he's played like 500 hours, or he's got his wallet out. Another problem with the microtransactions is that Rockstar in Red Dead Redemption 2 online, they push those microtransactions in so bad. Like, from the start, everything in that game was mega expensive. The only way to get it was to pull your wallet out because there wasn't enough missions that rewarded you enough to get the actual to get the progress. So thank you for the alert, Garden. So Red Dead Redemption 2 online for me was just atrocious. That was another dumpster fire of a game for me. Just terrible.
Another one which like I was never big into the Fallout series, and I came close to getting Fallout 76, the last one, and I am so glad
You dodged a
I
bullet.
avoided that.
I
dodged a bullet because I went through 2019 and there was a few games that I kind of picked up that I was frustrated with. I talked about Anthem, but there was also like Code Vein. That was a pretty frustrating game and Sekiro they made them too hard. They went too Dark Souls. But yeah, it's kind of I'm glad. So yes, probably spent too much money on games that disappoint me, but the one that I'm glad that I missed out on was definitely Fallout 76, and being new to would have been new to that genre and that series as well.
It would have sort of tainted it for you. You wouldn't have picked another Fallout game up. I can't lie, I played Fallout 3 and then I didn't bother with 4 or New Vegas. I haven't played either of those. People in the chat are gonna fucking lose it. Like, oh, those games are masterpieces, play them. But the first, Fallout 3 just didn't interest me enough. This is like a controversial opinion. People are gonna lose it. Fallout 3 just did not interest me enough to warrant me playing like New Vegas or Fallout 4. I know a lot of people said Fallout 4 was quite boring as well. It seems like Bethesda just completely missed the mark with what the fans of that franchise wanted in Fallout 76. Apparently the game was just buggy as shit. They stopped caring about it, it seems. And more recently, controversially, they added that paid subscription as well. So everyone's bought this dumpster fire of a game, and now they're charging people more money for it. It's quite ridiculous, really.
Did you see with Fallout they had the whole canvas bag saga?
Yeah.
That was just a cash grab and a half where people up until I think still like the back end of 2019 still hadn't received these canvas bags, and the canvas bags they were picking up weren't even canvas. They were like this cheap plasticky
horrid
stuff. Yeah, just horrid. It's like that's just the dev house like absolutely giving up.
I mean, imagine going making masterpieces like Oblivion, Skyrim. To a lot of people, Fallout 3 is a masterpiece, and then just nosediving your company into the ground with the shit show of this last year with like Fallout 76. I mean, Fallout 4 kind of missed the mark for a lot of people. Imagine just making 2 masterpiece games like that and then just crashing your company into the ground. It's kind of sad to see. I can't lie. Like, I don't want to be too negative, but 2010s they brought me a lot of disappointing games. I mean, I don't know if it's because I was on the Xbox side of things. I know a lot of PlayStation players are quite happy with some of the exclusive games that they've had, but I mean, even games that have been neutral on all platforms, there are so many disappointing games. Like, to recap, like Destiny, The Division, Gears of War 4 and 5 were just unbelievable. They should just give that game up at this point. The player base is barely even there anymore. Like, a lot of the hardcore fans of Gears of War who have played since number 1 just don't care anymore. The game's just a dumpster fire. I definitely want to say that PlayStation have definitely dominated this time around. And now Xbox are gambling on Game Pass a lot to get a player base back this next time around.
Which it's gonna be tough, especially when you kind of look at what PlayStation's got coming up. They kind of kicked this year off pretty good, well with the Last of Us Part Two. Um, that'll be one that they'll be wanting to make right to really run into the PS5. I think they've also, they've got a lot of people with the fans that came new fans that came through with God of War and also Horizon Zero Dawn. A lot of their exclusives that they've been talking about making sequels for. They've set themselves up really well to go in, especially for the new console as well. Like I've spoken to a mate of mine who's just as, if not bigger fan of Horizon than I am. With both said is if PlayStation turn around and say that Horizon Zero Dawn 2 will be first release title for a PlayStation 5, I'll walk down to the nearest GameStop store
Pre-order right
tomorrow
now.
and
Yeah.
pre-order it and buy myself a PlayStation 5. And that's, as everyone says, with first gen like first gen new consoles, they're always buggy, they're always going to crash, and you're always going to have to go off and wait for the second or third kind of redo of them. But yeah, I'll go off and pay top dollar to get a console and play those games. And that's what Sony have done so well, is that they've done so well where they've actually people actually go off and do that. They'll actually get a console straight away. But I mean,
Just for a
Xbox,
game,
man,
for
it's kind
one
of like,
game.
yeah, just for a game, for one game, or because there's going to be another two or three around the same time. But when it comes to Xbox, you kind of like, well,
What is there really? I mean, they've announced
what is there?
they've announced that Hellblade. I watched a friend play through the first one. The first one looked really good. If the trailer they showed for the new Hellblade, I can't remember the exact title of the game without reading it up. If that game looks as good as it looks on the trailer, which, let's be honest, movies and games, they never look as good as the trailers. They just put these, like, they play these games through PCs, turn them up to the highest specs, and then run the trailer through that. And then when you get on your Xbox and you turn the game on, it looks like PS1 graphics in comparison to the trailer. The trailer's always boosted up visually. I mean, you've got Hellblade and Halo 6. Those are like the only two games I think about. And being completely honest, Halo 5, again, talking of disappointments, missed the mark by a massive margin for a lot of Halo fans. And even the casual player who just wanted a casual shooter to play, it missed the mark quite a lot, it seems. They're not two titles that make you think, oh, I'm going to go out and buy the next Xbox. I mean, they haven't really released any games that make me feel like that yet.
And the problem is now with so many different streaming platforms,
Oh yeah,
is that they've got nowhere to hide. It's kind of where before it was kind of word of mouth and maybe like a YouTube review video online. Now with, like, you look at any new release game that goes up on Twitch, is that they'll have, they can have anywhere over 100,000 people watching, kind of thing.
yeah.
But they'll sit on 50 odd thousand people for the first week of release.
That's 50,000 people seeing how good or bad a game is.
Yeah, how good it is, good or bad it is in that first week. And it's always, and you speak to a lot of people, they're like, oh, I won't, I'll watch some gameplay and see how people react to it before I go off and buy it. And that's another thing. It's kind of like, well, you just can't. You've got to go back. They've got to go back and actually put the effort in and make it work and make sure that it's not buggy and spend a bit of time, because otherwise it can just it'll send them broke. They'll kind of, and it's the thing of, it wouldn't take too much because it's usually touched on a couple of times. It's pushing out the door before it's finished and not spending that extra couple of months just getting it rendered right and making sure it looks the business. It's kind of
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, there's so many games, like I said, that I've just felt like that, just unfinished. Like the developer, I mean, sometimes it's not always the developer's fault. I think the producers and the people who actually need to make the money and need to appease investors or people with like market shares. I think they push game devs to rush games sometimes. I mean, look at EA; they're like a prime example. Sparhawk coming in, the random shout out there. No idea what that was. I think he's trolling. It's fine.
Sparhawks.
But yeah, game devs, like, sometimes you can tell they've sort of been pushed into rushing a game. And it sucks. Because I feel like a lot of them wouldn't want to put their name on it, knowing it's been rushed out.
It's especially when they spend, when they're spending 3, 4, 5 years on a game to get it to something they want, and then that last couple of months that they need for rendering and last bit of pressure testing on the game to make sure it all works, and it gets thrown out the window. It's just and then they go bust, and the pro devs, like, it'd be a small industry. They'll have to go off and, if they got to go somewhere else to get a job, they'll be like, what's your last game you worked on? And if they go off and say, oh, it was Fallout 76.
Yeah, fuck off, you're not having a job. Yeah.
They're gonna get freaking laughed at. We're gonna go on and kid that's in second year freaking university rather than getting rather than a dude that's worked on a game that's absolutely flopped.
What did you work on? Anthem. Yeah, fuck off. You're not having a job.
Sorry not to say, mate. Sorry not to say. If you want the job, you can have the intern's freaking internship.
Yeah, exactly.
You can be the intern's coffee boy. That's pretty much what you'll get.
So to summarise up games, what would you say that like your most played games are this decade?
This decade, definitely probably the back half. I'll probably spend a couple of years mid 2000s 2010s where I was moving around. I wasn't playing too much, but at the start of the 2010s, what would have I been playing? I was still kind of loitering around on PS2 and PS3. So that was like Valkyrie Chronicles, which was a cool Sega game. But I think that was and I played the remaster. And then probably the back half is definitely been Horizon Zero Dawn. And also Nier Automata. That was another big Square Enix game that was just, and it wasn't big. That was one of the most surprising games that I've played. That came out in 2000 and I think it started 2017, and it was, no one really knew about it, and then it was just this underground game that, again, open world, which was phenomenal. Like I think I stuck in 100 hours, and they had like this shitty like fishing component to it. We had to go on fish, like, and
so
like,
many games have added weird fishing like mechanics.
Yeah, and like fishing mechanics are terrible. Like, just they're boring. But it was just one game where I've actually I've got to do this fishing component because it was cool. So yeah, but yeah, definitely between probably Horizon Zero Dawn and Nier Automata. They're my two big hits for the 2010s, I think.
I mean, trying to look over the whole decade of what I've played is insane. I mean, reading back over that Red Dead 1 was 2010. Come to think of it, I played a lot of hours online of that. Like, I finished the campaign, and then me and some friends modded it on Xbox 360. So online we had like all the weapons, like the best horse. We'd go around fucking trolling people in basically. Back then, I was the griefer that I hate in Red Dead Redemption 2. Now that I was talking about earlier, but yeah, Gears of War 3 as well. The last good Gears of War game that came out in 2010. I played a lot of that. Battlefield 3 and 4. I've actually written a few of these down. I've got them on a piece of paper here. Well prepared. Battlefield 3 and 4. I played a lot of hours of those. GTA 5. I played a fair bit of that when it came out. The story of that game was actually a masterpiece, in my opinion. The online kind of went a bit downhill. Because again, Rockstar trying to grab money, get people to buy these shark cards, microtransactions to buy. I mean, they lost what GTA is about in the end, really. But in the first half of it coming out on like the 360, and then like a little bit after on the next generation in like Xbox One, PlayStation 4, they did like the remaster. That was quite nice.
Yeah.
But eventually they lost what it was about with like fucking Tron bikes, like flying around, flying motorbikes, flying cars, like dumb shit. Shit that used to be cheat codes in old GTA games. They started making cost money in GTA Online, so I was like, nah, I'm fucking...
Yeah, that takes the fun out of it.
I'm fucking out of this nonsense. And then like towards the back end of the decade, I'd probably say my most played game, as much as I hated Destiny actually, before I conclude, I played 800 hours of Destiny. As much as I started hating the game by the end of me playing it, I can't lie, any game that gets you to play for 800 hours, you've got to give them props. As much as I hated Activision's involvement in that game, and thank the Lord they fucked off and Bungie can do whatever they want with that game now. I played a lot of hours in Destiny 1, so I'll give them kind of credit for that. And then to conclude the back end of this century, I've probably played mostly a lot of Overwatch. Speaking to a lot of people, they don't see the appeal of Overwatch, but for me, it's like a drug addiction. You know it's fucking bad for you, but you can't put the game down. It gets you in like this toxic... The ranked experience in that game can make you feel so fucking... Like, it makes me the shittiest person I've ever been. Like, I take the game way too seriously. I play to win too hard.
I tried Overwatch for the first time a couple of months ago because it was always one of those games that was hardly ever on sale. I kind of half saw the appeal of it. And then it came on sale and I bought it and I played a couple of hours of it and I had to put it down purely for that reason, that I knew if I played any more of it, it'd just turn into like pretty much a drug addiction and I wouldn't be able to see it. I was like, I can't do it. I uninstalled it. So I was like, no, I've got like my backlog of all my other games.
You're never going to put Overwatch down.
I'm never going to put it down. So like, but the thing is like the probably of all games I watched the most of, like for streamers, majority of them, like I always seem to come back to Overwatch streamers. I don't know what it is, but there's just something about it that kind of, I don't know, is engrossing.
I mean, Overwatch and back end, maybe a little bit of Apex Legends, not a lot. Realm Royale, I played a fair bit of that towards the end of the 2010s. I'm just trying to think, but I don't really want to miss anything. It's not that important if I do. They've added a third person in Apex. Yeah, that's absolute. I didn't know that, but that's kind of vile. A third person mode in Apex. That's kind of gross. Yeah, I think that's about all the games I played. So, summing up the game section of the discussion, any games that you can't wait for in 2020? I know you said you want Horizon Zero Dawn. I know that's not officially... Number 2's not officially announced yet, but if that's a thing.
But yeah, number one for me is the remake of Final Fantasy VII. As I said, I've had a physical copy of that on back order since 2016. I will be getting. I went in last week and I just had like the standard copy on back order. I went back and
Deluxe edition.
the deluxe edition, and I'm getting it. I'm getting the digital copy as well, so I don't have to open the physical copy of the deluxe edition. So it's going to cost me
You're trying to keep
a lot of money, a lot of money, but it's just
trying to keep it pristine, like collectors.
Yeah, because Final Fantasy VII was like my teenage jam of a game. That was the first game that I ever put in over 100 hours on. So yeah, for 2020, yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake's the one that I'm looking forward to, and I've watched some highlights of it, and
gonna frame it in case of broke ass.
yeah, and it's definitely I've watched some gameplay of it, and it looks like they've done it justice. So we'll wait and see. I'm just hoping that that's the one game they don't absolutely brick this year.
I mean,
what about yourself? Fozzy? What's the one you're looking forward to?
2020. Thinking of a game off the top of my head, the only one that really comes to mind is Cyberpunk. They've pushed that game back, but I really hope that I don't mind them pushing it back. One, for my wallet's sake, because then if they push it back, I'll be able to save. I'll be able to get it. Cyberpunk. Overwatch 2. Hell yeah, actually. How did I forget about that? I don't know if that's releasing in 2020. There's a lot of speculation in the Overwatch community about what's going on with Overwatch 2. They don't know when it's going to release. A lot of people, I think they're going to release it maybe just before the new consoles come out. Or maybe alongside them, I'm not sure yet. It's Blizzard. They probably want to, Activision Blizzard even, they probably want to try and get as much money as they can, so they'll probably release 2 versions and make you pay for both. Like one for this console generation, one for next. Obviously, when it releases on PC, I think you're just gonna pay for it, and then it'll update the Overwatch 1 client. I don't know what they're going to do with Xbox and PS4, but I think maybe they'll just upgrade the client on Xbox as well, like PlayStation. So for me, yeah, probably Overwatch 2 and Cyberpunk are like the first 2 that come to my mind. I haven't really seen anything in terms of games that I think I'm just like excited about. I've even towards the back end Overwatch, I realised what a toxic person it made me. So I kind of I kind of tried to wean myself off it, like we said, like that drug addiction, and stop playing it as much. The only time I really play the game now is with Jazzy. On a night we play 2 or 3 hours. That's it. I'm done with it. I put it down. So for me, 2020, definitely Cyberpunk and Overwatch 2. Welcome in, Grumpy Wolf. How are you doing, my dude? Thanks for stopping by. Yes, I think that pretty much sums up the game segment of the podcast. The first episode. Where do you want to go to next?
I was thinking maybe we go to movies.
Sounds like a good one. We actually didn't cover the Nintendo and the Switch very much.
We didn't. Maybe we can do one, because I'm actually looking at getting a Switch in the next month or so.
Animal Crossing. A lot of people are looking forward to the new Animal Crossing game.
Yeah,
I think the reason
that's meant to be.
We haven't really covered the Switch is because neither of us have owned one, have we? I don't own one yet. I do want to invest in one.
Yeah, I've never owned one, but it's definitely fast as fogging up. Love Australian summer. But yeah, it's definitely a console that I want to own. It's kind of between Mario Kart and then the Zeldas as well. And there's a new Metroid Prime game coming out at some stage, and yeah, Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo was one of my old school jams. So they've got some good retro games that kind of a retro feel to them, and they just look like fun games to. And every stream that I've watched and played Switch games, they've all really enjoyed themselves.
More recently, they've just released like the new Pokemon Sword and Shield. It seems like a lot of the Pokemon community seems like they're having a lot of fun with that game. A lot of them are saying Nintendo are bringing that game, like Pokemon, back to where it should be, like the fundamentals of what it used to be, but like with the modern look.
Yeah, because they had that Pokemon game that came out last year that went okay, but yeah, I think the Sword and Shield games this year have kind of, or like right at the back end of. So I think it got released in December, didn't it?
Yeah.
November, December. I think there was one at the start of the year, but yeah, the latest one, Sword and Shield, seems to really got people back on board with Pokemon and on the Switch as well. So,
I mean, I have honestly, being completely honest, I haven't played a Pokemon game since Diamond and Pearl on the Nintendo DS. I can't even remember what year that came out. But after that, for me, the Pokemon started getting stupid. There was so many of them. Like, gotta catch them all. How there's like fucking 12,000 of them now. Over exaggeration, but how the fuck am I supposed to? You know, it's kind of fucking counterintuitive to what the objective of the game is.
But yeah, I know a lot of people that have like they didn't go off and catch them all for that the Pokemon game that came at the start of last year. But I know a heap of people. I know a good, I'm gonna say, 3 or 4 people that went out and got the whole Pokedex or whatever it is in the space of like 2 weeks. They were like super addictive to it. They're like, it's unbelievable.
Speaking of Nintendo, when did the Nintendo Wii actually release? The original Nintendo Wii, what year did that come out? Oh, that was 2006. That was ages ago. That wasn't. I thought that was in the 2010s. I was going to say.
Yeah.
How could, if that released this decade, how can we not mention that console? Because it was like it outsold the Xbox 360 and the PS3, but that wasn't this decade. So sadly, Nintendo, the only mention you get is the Switch and maybe the Wii U. I don't know what year the Wii U released in. I think the Switch is a really smart console, though. To be fair,
I think to be so portable. I think that's where, I mean, PlayStation. That's probably one of PlayStation's failures with the PS Vita. Is they couldn't work out how to do a portable device. But I mean, Nintendo's had decades of with the Game Boys and everything like that on how to make quality portable game systems, and to get it into, and to kind of, with the Switch, I think they're limited to 720 for their resolution.
yeah.
Which is, I mean, which you think is low, but I mean, 720 is still decent quality. And they've managed to kind of, they know where they sit, and it's something that Sony do as well. They kind of know their market, and they sit within their market, and they work well within those boundaries, and kind of progressively push them out. So,
Speaking of the Game Boy, I think I actually owned every version of at least one of the Game Boy. Like, you had the original Game Boy, like with the purple, and it was quite clunky for what it was, and you literally had to put the AA batteries in the background of it to power it.
yeah.
You had the Game Boy Color before that, in fact, well before that. The big, like the tall one, again, where you have to put the batteries in. I remember when I was a kid, me and my cousin had one each, and he had like always had the opposite Pokemon game to me. And then you had the Game Boy SP, which was like the little flip one, which was amazing.
Yeah, I had the SP because they came out with the original Legend of Zelda's 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And I bought them. I bought one of those for those, and I never managed to get a Legend of Zelda 2 cartridge, but I had a Legend of Zelda 1, and I played the hell out of that. And that was
The SP was the first one with a proper backlit screen as well, wasn't it? So you could see what you were doing.
Yeah.
I remember on like the Game Boy Color, you had to have one of those like lights that shine over it. So if you were like in a car or something, you could you wasn't having to like shine it into a light. And then you had, I even had the Game Boy Micro at one point. It was about that big, and it was the Game Boy Micro. Not many people remember them, but they were really good. They came in like 3 different colors, like a green, a blue, and a silver. They were just really portable. Literally, you could put it in your pocket. You wouldn't even know it was there. It was that light. So Nintendo have always been really good at doing like the durable, on-the-go gaming, I think. The thing that stopped me buying a Switch on launch was the lack of games for it. I mean, it doesn't have that problem now. They've released a lot of games for it, but when it first came out, there wasn't a massive library of games.
There wasn't a great deal, and I know Nintendo have put a lot out in improving their back catalog and their digital kind of lineups to make it a lot more appealing to nostalgia gamers. Like when they came out with the Super Nintendo Mini and the Nintendo Mini,
Yeah.
they sold unbelievably well.
PlayStation did very similar though, didn't they, with that PS1 with all the, I think it had like 15 or 20 games, or maybe more loaded onto it.
They came out with one and Sega came out with one, but I think by the time Sega and PlayStation put them out,
Nintendo had already smashed it.
They'd already smashed it. So when Sega and PlayStation did it, it looked very, very gimmicky.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the games that they kind of had there. You could track down, you could track down a cheap PlayStation and the games pretty much on eBay or somewhere like that, or even they were already available somewhere digitally
on PS3 or PS4.
Yeah, PS3, PS4. So it's kind of like, well, yeah, the games that came out on those original Nintendos were like Kid Icarus and Super Metroid. So those like skew if games that you just wouldn't be able to find, and if you found, you'd end up paying
through the nose. Yeah.
So I was like,
I mean,
perfect for console, and it was and the like the graphics were still the same. I remember trying Street Fighter 2 on the SNES Mini, and that was still clunky as all hell with the buttons to making sure you had all your moves properly. But
don't even get me started on Street Fighter. That's another one. And
I was gonna say
back end of this year, I've just started playing. I've only played it twice on stream so far, but I'm enjoying it. It's like quickly just going back over to Nintendo and the Switch. I mean, you look at like you mentioned, the back catalogue of games now. You've got like Zelda, Smash Bros, Mario Kart. They've even just got Blizzard to put Overwatch on there, which I can't believe is a thing. I think the game does run like shit on the Switch, I'm not going to lie, from what I've seen. But it's on there. I can't believe they actually got Blizzard to buy into that. Someone did say Street Fighter, I just keep having Vietnam-style flashbacks, just traumatized, looking into the distance of my ass getting beat for like 40 fucking games. My win record of about 40 losses and 5 wins if I'm lucky. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. I can't really think. Oh, Animal Crossing as well. That's what brought us to Nintendo, actually. So
yeah,
looking over that, I think that's like the whole of. Obviously, you've got the Mario game, like Mario Kart. You've got Mario Party, the Legend of Zelda games.
They did one game that I watched a bit of gameplay on, which they actually did, which looks fun, was Luigi's Mansion.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. That looks like a really good exclusive, actually. Yeah,
and I've spoken to a few people because the first couple, the first two, everyone's like, why they were a bit. They couldn't really understand why they made a third one, but it came out
and it was
people were like, "This
phenomenal.
is
Yeah,
actually-" yeah, it was like this is actually really fun, which is pretty cool. So it's kind of like they're getting there with their library. So it should be interesting to see how they go as well.
I think we've covered everything for games. I think we might have even just spent like an hour. Yeah, we have an hour just on the game section. That's quite good. That's good though. That's not a bad thing. It just means we can have a lengthy first time doing the FozCast. It's not bad going. I'm still waiting for Jazzy to boil a kettle. We'll just see what's going on here. I don't know. But yeah, I think we can move on to movies, the best movies of the 2010s. I don't know what you've got sort of written down for that.
I've got a couple again because I worked away for the first half of the 2010s. I was trying to think of like the early stuff that came out the first half, but couldn't really. From about halfway on, there's the two. Well, there's probably three for me. The first two are by a New Zealand director called Taika Waititi, called Hunt for the Wilder People and Boy. So he was the guy that did Thor Ragnarok. Was the
All
director
right.
for Thor.
That actually leads into a nice segue because I've got Marvel movies on mine, but I couldn't decide which one, so I've just put that in brackets.
Yeah, so to go off, and I'd highly recommend watching Hunt for the Wilder People and Boy because they're super funny. Like he does a really, really good job. They're just kind of you just look at them and you just have to laugh.
So they're comedies?
Yeah, they're comedies. So Boy's about this guy, this kid whose dad gets out of jail, and like it's set in the 80s, and his dad's like his dad steals like a weed crop and just like, and this kid's like super like a massive Michael Jackson fan, and it's just it's crazy. And then Hunt for the Wilder People is about this kid who gets orphaned and he goes on the run with this old dude, and it's
just crazy shit.
Oh man, it's just crazy shit. Like they steal a car and on the run from Child Protective Services, and but like the funny thing is like his sense of humor. Like he said, he's just this like small town New Zealand director. Then somehow became director for Thor Ragnarok.
Thor Ragnarok, one of the biggest movies of the year.
Yeah, one of the biggest movies, and like the last three movies were just these small indie movies, which were hilarious. So I went and saw, like, knowing this, I went and saw Thor Ragnarok in the cinemas, and I sat there, and it's got a couple of actors from Hunt from the Wilder People. And same type of style, and he plays one of the characters, one of the dude that's in the prison, the rock dude.
The rock dude, yeah. I can't remember his name now.
So I remember watching Thor in the movies, and there was these kind of like Easter eggs for between Boy and Hunt for the Wilder People. So I was there and I was laughing, like I was proper laughing out loud. And these people in the cinemas were just like, what the hell is this guy like? What's this guy?
What's so funny? Yeah,
it's like it's not meant to be funny, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, oh man. Like,
the thing is, there are a lot of funny moments, if I can spit my words out, like funny moments in that film with like the Hulk when he first gets into the fight. Spoiler alert: when he first gets into the fight with the Hulk. And he's like, yes! And then he's like, it's a friend from work! Yeah. So I'm actually trying to find what that guy's called, not just the rock guy. I'm trying to figure out what his name is.
Yeah. Yes, that was the first lot of movies that really for Korg. Yeah, is it Korg? Yeah, Korg.
Korg, that's the guy, yeah.
Yeah. He's grumpy. but yeah, the other movies like the there's the Equalizer, the Equalizer with Denzel Washington. That was kind of like a modern like Rambo slash.
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't watched that one yet. I think I saw it on maybe Amazon or Netflix. I think maybe I need to watch
it's
it.
The Equalizer 2's on there as well, but the first Equalizer is just Denzel Washington being a badass, and it's kind of like, yeah, it was cool. But another one which I watched that had Benicio del Toro and Jeff Brolin, and there's a sequel that came out as well, which is good, which is Sicario, and it's to do like with the first one's about like this guy. So Sicario in I think Mexican Spanish is hitman. And it's like the CIA is at war with all like the drug cartels in Mexico, which is crazy. And then the second one is about like is about the Americans trying to stop the people trafficking between Mexico and the US. And it's kind of, yeah, again, it's pretty brutal, but it's pretty full on. But like Jeff Brolin's really good in it. And yeah, Benicio del Toro is just this hard ass.
I'm gonna have to write these down because I actually haven't seen either of them, The Equalizer or Sicario. I feel really uneducated that I haven't seen them now.
But yeah, Vic, it's so gritty and it's really good because yeah, Jeff Brolin's. It's not like the kind of Hollywood blockbuster. It's just like it's just this gritty. As Vic said, it's just gritty. It's full on. It makes you kind of think, and it actually like it doesn't kind of glorify like drug trafficking or anything like that. It actually kind of gives you a bit of light on what it's like between like along the border of the US between that stuff, and it's and they're done really well, and it kind of like it makes you think. You kind of walk away from the like, what did I just watch? That was full on.
So
But yeah,
we just mentioned Netflix and Amazon Prime. Obviously, we don't make films. We don't direct films. We're not like a big company. We're not a film company, but what do you think of Netflix and Amazon Prime?
I actually had.
We didn't mention them, but Disney Plus. What's your opinion on Disney Plus as well?
So I had this on both top five. So top five, with streaming services in general. I think with now the access to Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime. We've got one in Australia called Stan. For what it is, you can get those four services for $40 a month.
Yeah.
If you wanted to get pay TV and get all the channels, you're looking at over 120. I think you pay like 120. That includes some sports channels. So if I put in like a sports channel, you might on those other streaming services, you might have 5 streaming services that'll cost you $50 a month.
Mentioning that though, off topic, Amazon Prime have actually just got access to midweek football /soccer here over in England. So
yes,
Amazon are starting to delve into that market as well with Prime.
Yeah, which is good. So for me, like top 5 for the 2010s was definitely the more and more streaming services. I think it gives people a lot more access to what they want to see. They're not locked in. It's quite an affordable way to watch stuff. And Disney Plus, I think Disney Plus has done really freaking well. I've been binging on I binged on The Mandalorian for the past couple of weeks. I've been binging on The Simpsons.
Yep.
Especially the older Simpsons. I tried watching a new episode of The Simpsons today. I just couldn't watch it.
Just terrible writing, trash humor.
Just trash humor, but like the old school Simpsons. So for me, Disney service and Disney Plus and Netflix.
If you had to pick only one of them you could subscribe to, you only had the money for one of them a month. Out of all of them, Prime, Netflix, Disney Plus, which one would you subscribe to? Welcome on in silence, by the way. Sorry to interrupt you there.
That's a good.
But yeah, to follow up the question, which one?
I'd probably go at this stage. I would go Disney Plus. Just because it's new and there's a bit more to it. But I think I'm almost at the end of it, kind of limited to what it is. But I think Netflix is still king, because I am actually disappointed in at this stage with Video Prime, Prime Video. They've got some good old school stuff, but I think they kind of
lack a newer market.
That they've lacked some. I think they're getting better with. As you said, they've got like midweek football that they're getting into. The one that I want to watch is Carnival Row. I think it is. That's got. I think it's who is it? I think it's Orlando Bloom and. Yeah, someone else in it, but yeah, I think they've still got to. They need to go off and get either some good original content or kind of.
I think that's what Netflix are doing really well, making their own original content. Without meaning, like, if we want to, we can put like movies and TV shows kind of in the same category while we're talking about Netflix and Amazon and stuff. Like at the minute, for me, Netflix is like their original stuff is insane. Like me and Jazzy have watched. Speaking of that, The Witcher. I don't know if you've watched. I haven't watched all of it yet. But from what I've seen of it so far, is incredible. Like that and The Mandalorian are blowing everyone away right now. Everyone. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people had Prime anyways for the fast shipping. Video's just something you get with it. It's kind of like a bonus.
That's, I think, with Victor and Buzz said, it's kind of, if it wasn't.
No Witcher spoilers. Yeah, we won't put any spoilers in the chat for The Witcher.
No Witcher. I haven't watched it either. I'm up to, I think, episode 3, but. Yeah, with Amazon, if it was standalone, you didn't get it with your Amazon Prime subscription. I'd probably kind of watch it here and there, maybe get it a month and then be like 12 months time watch it again. But yeah, it's definitely, it probably lacks a lot of content. But I think with they'll start to kind of now that Apple's got their own streaming service as well, it's going to be interesting to see what it does.
I'm just
everyone else.
There's a movie with Samuel L. Jackson in that I had as one of my favourites, and it's called. Where is it? Where's it gone? It's a new one. It's exclusive to Netflix. I'm sure of it. I think it's called Shaft. What year did that? I'm sure it's called Shaft.
Yeah, so is Shaft the remake where he's the detective?
Yeah, it's the newer one. Yeah, Netflix have. Yeah, there was a new Shaft. Yeah, it's like a remake where his son's friend is basically a drug addict.
Okay, so it's a sequel to the 2000 film.
Yeah, it's a sequel. Netflix did that. That's like an original movie from them, the remake, and it was really good. As much as you love Apple, you hope they don't take over again. Yeah, me too. They've done a lot of bullshit in this last decade, which is what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem with Apple. With it, they'll just roll in with their market value just because they're worth so much and they've got the money to throw around.
They did the AUXless iPhone at one point, didn't they? I think that was quite stupid.
Yeah.
You'd have a hard time choosing between Netflix. We don't have Hulu over here in the UK. We have like Netflix, Prime Video, and that's about it, to be honest. But me and Jazzy have both. We've been watching Mr. Robot on Prime Video. No spoilers if you've seen it, but because we haven't finished it yet. But thank you. There she is with a cup of tea. Thank you. Appreciate you. So yeah, we've been watching Mr. Robot on Prime. No Hulu in the UK. No, we don't have Hulu in the UK. Sadly,
So I don't think we get. I don't think we get Hulu in Australia either. But we're starting to get, which I'm actually might spend a bit of time on this year because I'm a bit of a fan of my anime is Crunchyroll.
yeah, I think we have that in the UK. Yeah, yeah. Get a VPN. That was the worst experience ever. Having to bring me a cup of tea.
Yeah.
I think Hulu is only the States, yeah. We have Crunchyroll here, I'm pretty certain.
Apparently we've got Hulu in Australia, but it's just full of the fucking Wiggles.
The Wiggles. So yeah, while we're on like movies and TV shows, I'm gonna go sort of back on what we were saying about Thor Ragnarok and Marvel movies. The 2010s has been a great year, well, great decade for Marvel, in my opinion. They have had some stinkers that weren't very good. That was supposed to be great, but they've had some like phenomenal.
Yeah, the Marvel movies. I had them. I was tossing up where they go into like best of the 2010s or disappointments of the 2010s. Because yeah, I mean, I've tried watching Black Panther a couple of times, and just can't do it. Just can't do it. But
Excuse me.
like, I can sit there and watch Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and just see Baby Groot just rock out.
So for me, Black Panther was one of the stinkers for me as well.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't really say much as a white male, but a lot of people, like black people, have said, like African Americans or people from Africa, have said that that film doesn't represent Africa whatsoever. Like not everything of Black Panther. Marvel comes in and kidnaps Silenced and Jazzy.
Yeah.
What was it about Black Panther that you liked so much, Silence? Because me and Ed both don't like it. So what is it?
Yeah, I just couldn't get into it. I watched the end of it and it was like the dude from the African American from the US versus the Black Panther. And it was like the ghetto came to Africa. And I was just like, the hell is this? Just doesn't and I don't know.
It's supposed to be a mixture of everything African culturally.
Yeah, it's like they've just let's everything that's African, let's just an African American, let's just put it into one sentence. Like it's kind of like
there was a few like funny moments in it, but like the story wasn't driven. Like exactly what I said about Red Dead. The story itself was kind of trash. I mean, talking about the Marvel movies and TV shows. They are all actually in chronological order. They're all in the same universe, if you didn't know that. Disney acquired Fox in the meanwhile. What about X-Men? X-Men was actually one I was going to get onto. I haven't seen the newest X-Men film with... what's his name? Was it James McAvoy and
I watched,
Sophie Turner? Dark Phoenix? That was kind of trash.
Yeah, it was kind of trash, yeah. But the one, I don't know whether you call it a Marvel film, but it's definitely it's Logan, so it's based on Wolverine and Professor X. I thought that was legitimate. I thought that was like to go like to explore a Marvel universe that isn't highly publicized or talked about. It's kind of like where at the end of the day it's
Sansa Stark. I was actually going to get onto Game of Thrones actually at some point. A lot of people have said Logan was great actually, like a great end to Wolverine and that whole story.
It was a great way to do it and to end it in that kind of alternate universe of the X-Men that isn't publicized. was so good. Like it was really, really good. It was kind of I watched that again over Christmas on the plane back from the East Coast and was like, yeah, done so well, especially when it was like when Hugh Jackman was like, I'm not gonna play Wolverine again. That was kind of him putting the pin on it, and it was a good, clean finish. It was like, yeah.
Speaking of Marvel and Netflix, while we're sort of on the Marvel subject, I don't know if anyone in chat or you've watched all the can messages be deleted? They can be.
Yeah.
So, what did you think to the? I don't know how many of them you've watched or which ones of them you've watched. What did you think to the Marvel Netflix series? Is that they brought out like the Daredevil, the Punisher?
I watched a little bit of the Punisher, and I wish I probably watched a bit more of it. That kind of I was starting to get into that. Iron Fist was pretty bad.
Yeah, I thought Iron Fist was a stinker.
I kind of yeah. One that I started watching, I was actually enjoying, and then lost track of because I worked out that I had to watch some Jessica Jones. Was Luke Cage? I thought
Yeah,
Luke Cage
we
was
really
actually alright.
enjoyed. Yeah, we enjoyed Luke Cage actually, or I
Yeah,
enjoyed
thought that was
it.
one.
Like for me,
So I get it was
Daredevil,
that was very
Punisher, and Luke Cage were my favourite three. Season 1 of Jessica Jones was okay. You're right, yeah. David Tennant did definitely carry the first season of that, and then season 2 and 3 were kind of shit. I wouldn't even bother watching them. Like season 1 was only watchable for David Tennant. But yeah, I feel like The Punisher obviously was fucking insanely good. I feel like John Bernthal, a lot of like long-term comic book fans felt like he wouldn't do The Punisher justice, but in my opinion, he did an insanely good job of showing the brutality of what The Punisher was supposed to be.
Because he was meant to be so brutal and so stuck on vengeance.
It's showing you like the line, but when you watch the Daredevil and you watch the Punisher, when you watch them side by side, you can sort of the actors like do such a good job of showing that like moral compass that the Daredevil has, and the Punisher's kind of more. He has it, but he's not quite. He's not scared to be that level of brutal, like when he fights Wilson Fisk in the TV shows, and like. There's a certain scene where he's in a jail corridor and he just kills all these fucking guys. The brutality and like the way it's shot cinematically is incredible. I feel like John Bernthal did such a good job of that. He's out for it. Yeah, exactly. There's that like that difference in moral compass where the revenge is pretty much his story. His whole family's being killed. So yeah, I feel like the Daredevil and the Punisher are incredible. Luke Cage was good. There were some moments of it where it's just kind of like a lot of the episodes were filler, and you could tell, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then, in my opinion, Jessica Jones watched season 1, like Silence said, for David Tennant. Iron Fist was just. I can't even remember the lead actor in that, but my god. I don't know if it was his, like the director of that kind of did him dirty and wrote it. Like the directors and the producers.
I think David Wellham was in. Hang on. In. Yeah, so David Wenham is an Australian actor.
There's a guy who played a gay knight on Game of Thrones. Yeah, it was. I can't remember his name.
Because David Wenham was in there. He was the guy that played. He was in 300.
Finn Jones. That's who plays the main character. Started out really good, like you said, Vic, and then kind of got boring. I don't know if you watched any of the show where it brought them all together. So they became like a mini Avengers in a sense. The Defenders, it's called. It basically brings Luke Cage, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and Iron Fist all together.
Yeah.
And they become like a little knockoff Avengers for like 2 seasons. Kind of good. Like, there was some episodes of it I was like really happy to watch. They were really good, and then again, a bit like Luke Cage, a lot of filler. It's a shame the Punisher didn't make an appearance in the Defenders, but he's not really one of them, so it makes sense for him not to be there. Talking about more Marvel movies, Deadpool. What did you think to Deadpool?
Yeah, I didn't mind it. It was enjoyable. I don't think for me it lived up to the hype that it was that everyone kind of gave it. I mean, it was still enjoyable. I still like. I'd watch it again, but yeah, it definitely wasn't. Yeah, didn't really knock me out of the park. And I don't know what it was. Because I think it was done. It was probably done the best they could have done with it.
I feel
but
like
I think
number 1 was better than number 2.
Yeah, I haven't seen number 2, but I think what the problem, like, everyone kind of was like, "Oh, it's gonna be so great," but I kind of still half remembered how, like, with Deadpool from the original X-Men, and it was kind of like, I don't know.
You loved Deadpool but had no expectations going in. Yeah, I don't think I did either. I feel like Deadpool 2 was kind of disappointing. And yeah, the hype was because it was the first R-rated movie.
Yeah.
Like, going back over the whole Marvel and Sony thing as well, while we're on the subject, what did you think of Spider-Man? Like Homecoming and Home From Home, what did you think of those two?
I haven't watched them. I've kind of stayed away from them, and like, the funny thing is, like, I've seen Venom, but I haven't seen the Spider-Man movies.
So, being completely honest myself, I think I saw the first Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland, and I haven't seen the second one. It is on Netflix, I think, now, or Amazon. I can't remember.
Because
I mean, being completely honest, anything's better than the one with, like, fucking Tobey Maguire and what's the other fucking guy? I can't even remember his name.
Because that had Tobey Maguire and it had Kirsten Dunst, and those two actors.
It seems like anything with superhero movies, like the character where they actually turn into the hero. Andrew Garfield, that's the one.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield was just, I don't know, kind of hard to. He was in that new movie. What was it called? The war movie.
Was he in Hacksaw Ridge?
Hacksaw Ridge, that's the one. I thought that was a really good movie. But
yeah, I thought that was good. I thought that suited him really well.
Trying to stay on the topic of Spider-Man, though, like, I think Tom Holland's done a really good job of playing Peter Parker and Spider-Man. I feel like whenever you give someone a hero to play and, like, the normal character, like their everyday life, they're either really good at one or the other, but never both. Like Christian Bale, for me, he was a great Batman, but an absolutely atrocious Bruce Wayne. Like,
it was shit. It was shit.
I thought he was great as Batman. People might not like me for saying that. I thought he was a phenomenal Batman. Like Heath and Jacqueline Joker, yeah. Tom Holland is the only one who's done both really well, in my opinion, for Spider-Man. And speaking of Batman, that's actually one I've wrote down. So the first 2 movies don't count because they released last decade. But The Dark Knight Rises that released in 2012.
Yeah.
So I've put that in my movies, like my favourite movies.
Because the Dark Knight Rises that was with Bane, wasn't it?
That was the one with Bane and Talia al Ghul.
Yep.
I thought that was really good. That's probably one of my favourite superhero trilogies. I actually haven't seen The Joker while we're talking about that in the chat. That's one I haven't seen yet. I was going to go to the cinema to watch it, but how dare you not include the nippled Batman?
But yeah, I think the Dark Knight trilogy has to be the best out of the Batman movies. I think the first two with what's his name, Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
They were good because like the first one had like was the original joke with Jack Nicholson, and that was really because that was like the proper kind of 80s kind of spoofy. They did the transition from like the 70s 70s kind of Batman to the 80s dark side of it really well. And then when they got George Clooney and Val Kilmer for that kind of mid-90s Batman, that was just shit. Excuse language.
No, it's all right.
No way about it.
Michael Keaton was the best Bruce Wayne.
Michael Keaton was definitely the best Bruce Wayne. He was kind of, because he was that kind of quirky millionaire that he was kind of that goofy, because he was kind of like that because it was around the same time that he did Beetlejuice as well. So he had that real kind of.
I actually agree about The Dark Knight Rises, by the way, Silenced. I just wanted an excuse to put the first two movies in there, and the third one fell into this decade, so I was like, I'll use that as an excuse to talk about the two before it with the Joker and Ra's al Ghul. I was like, yeah, I'll put that in there sneakily.
Yeah.
I've actually got a fair few movies written down. So the next one... I was going to talk about I mean, there's so many Marvel movies we could talk about, man. In the 2010s, like Thor Ragnarok, we've gone over Deadpool, Spider-Man, Black Panther. We've got the Black Widow movie coming in 2020. Yeah, you could spend hours on just Marvel. You've got Avengers, like you've got Endgame. For me, I'm going to say something, right? Endgame did not need to be 3 hours long. The whole setup for that movie, for like 30 minutes of a climax of a fight at the end. I mean,
yeah.
There was one point, I'm not going to lie, I actually cried though. Like when no spoilers, but not the end part where said character dies. But like the build up to the fight when they got everyone together, and then you thought, who was it that he was going to kill in the fight before he actually kills the end character? But when you hear Captain America say Avengers Assemble, and then he has Thor's hammer, like I was just sat in the cinema and the sound system was just like blurring around me. I actually cried at that moment because it was like everything had just been leading to that one big fucking moment, and then it finally happened. And then he said the iconic line, Avengers Assemble, and then literally everyone just turned up. Like 11 years of movies all just led to that, and they all linked in together so well. Even the Netflix shows like mention the Avengers, how they're all in the same timeline, was great. The hammer scene was incredible. Silenced, yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it was the ending of that movie was pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even cry at the death of spoiler, but I'm not gonna say it. It's been out forever, man. Like I should be allowed to say it, but
the funny thing is, I was going to say it's been out for that long that people still you can't people still don't spoil it. Because I was actually a funny thing. I watched a video yesterday of this dude that had his Facebook hacked, and someone had put out like the spoiler.
That's brutal.
And this guy phoned up. This guy phoned up 911. He's like, oh, he's disturbing the peace. He's spoiled the end game. This freaking cop turns up to this dude's house, and the dude's like, he's like, I'm not letting you in. I don't know what I've done. I don't know what I've done. Next minute, this cop like breaks the window and just charges into this guy's house and arrests him. I was like, what the hell?
For posting an endgame spoiler when he was hacked. Holy shit. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's insane. I mean, I'm just looking through what more Marvel movies there is. I mean, like I said, you've got Black Widow that's coming out in 2020. Quite honestly, I think that might be a disappointment. I'm not holding... We've just got the trailer for Morbius with Jared Leto. That actually looks really good. I think he's about to make DC look really stupid. I think he's going to do an incredible job of Morbius. I feel like his direction on... like his Joker, the Suicide Squad, I don't feel like that was his fault in a way. That makes sense. I feel like that was definitely the director and the producer's fault. They made him more like him and Harley Quinn a love interest to each other more than the villains that they should have been. So yeah, while we're just on like superhero movies, I think we can all agree that Suicide Squad was fucking trash. Like, absolutely garbage. Sorry if anyone likes that movie, but I'm just going to say it was garbage. I mean, they're bringing the second one out. I think, is it this year or 2021?
Yeah, it's the Harley Quinn one. But I was going to say, like, the DC movies, they were a disappointment for me.
I mean... James Gunn, the director of Guardians of the Galaxy, is directing the next Suicide Squad movie. Yeah, Harley Quinn's coming out as well, and then there's is it Birds of Prey, I think? 2020 for DC? Yeah, it is. So you've got Birds of Prey. You've got Suicide Squad 2 coming out for DC, and then not really much else. Aquaman was okay from what I've heard. That's one I haven't got round to watching.
I heard it was alright, and I tried watching it, and I couldn't do it.
I mean...
I turned it off.
The cast for Suicide Squad 2 actually looks really good, and they've got James Gunn directing it as well.
That should be good. If I liked Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's coming out in 2021, so it technically won't be this decade, but the cast for it... You've actually got Taika Waititi, who you mentioned earlier. He's going to be in it at some point. Idris Elba. John Cena. Michael Rooker, who's starred in The Walking Dead as Merle. Peter Capaldi, who was Doctor Who. Who else have we got in Suicide Squad 2? I think I could be wrong.
Idris Elba.
Yeah, I think
Viola Davis. That's an interesting.
With James Gunn directing it, that should be a pretty. I mean, they shouldn't. That cast is insane.
And with that director, they should do all right out of that. Keyword.
Birds of Prey looks really good. I'm not going to lie. Let's have a look who's in Birds of Prey. I can't remember So Margot Robbie's the lead as Harley Quinn. What else have we got? I'm pretty sure
Margot should stick to Neighbours.
Ewan McGregor, which is a massive name for a TV show of that caliber. That's about the only two big names in it, though. I can't lie. Like Margot Robbie and Ewan McGregor, that's about it. Ewan McGregor as Black Mask. Also, I forgot to mention in Black Widow, you've got David Harbour from Stranger Things. I mean, you could, like Silence said, we could talk about like Marvel movies, DC movies all day.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just looking through Marvel movies that came out now, and there's fucking loads of them. Like a shit ton. The New Mutants, Venom. We touched on Venom, I think, didn't we?
Yeah, I watched Venom, and I actually liked it. I thought it was. I think Michelle Williams annoyed me a little bit, but she has always done that since Dawson's Creek.
I honestly can't lie. I felt like when I first saw the announcement for that, I felt like Tom Hardy maybe wasn't the right choice for it. I haven't seen the film, so I can't really have an opinion.
I thought the same thing, but I actually think he actually did pretty good. Like it's not a fantastic movie, but in saying that, it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I was actually, after watching it, I was surprised. I was actually like, I thought to myself, yeah, I'll watch it. I won't go to the cinemas to watch it, but I'm happy to once it gets to like Netflix or whatever, I'll be happy to sit down and.
Yeah, I think that's kind of why I didn't watch it, because I didn't want to go to the cinema to watch it. It wasn't a movie I was like insanely like excited about. We've got Venom 2 coming out this year. I don't know the exact date. That's just what Google says. We touched on Guardians of the Galaxy and how they came together with the Avengers. We've got Thor. We said The Dark World was shit. We agreed on Silenced with that one. I'm just trying to look through.
But Venom 2 is going to be good. I think it'll be good because it's got Woody Harrelson in it.
Yeah, it's meant to be set in the same universe as well. Someone's come out and found proof that it's actually going to be set in the MCU, apparently. So Sony must have agreed to do something with it, but I don't know what. I guess we'll see when it comes out. It is Sony that own Venom, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, because I think there was one or two franchises. I think Venom was one of them where Disney didn't have the rights on, because there was, which one? I think it might have been Spider-Man, or there was another one of the kind of series where they pulled the pin on because they couldn't come to like a commercial.
I think it was actually Spider-Man. They nearly pulled the pin.
Yeah.
On Spider-Man, and it came to fruition in like the public eye that Tom Holland was actually like the one who begged them to come back together and form some sort of deal, because he wanted to carry on playing Spider-Man so bad. I mean, I can imagine why. Imagine being his age and the money that he's making. He's cashing fat checks.
Oh yeah, for sure. And when it's something like a kind of super like Marvel franchise, when you see what it's done for continuous movies over the space of like the first X-Men movie would have come, and I reckon I would have been at least grade 12, which would have been 2001.
Jesus.
So they've been going on for 19, nearly 20 years.
Would have had to reboot again because a third Holland movie with no mention of anything from the MCU. Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like Tom Holland's the best Spider-Man we've ever had.
Yeah, he kind of strikes me, from what I've seen him in as being probably the better Spider-Man of any of the attempts.
Yeah, we have to keep him as Spider-Man for as long as possible, so we don't end up with another fucking Toby or Andrew Garfield at the helm, to be honest. Plus, yeah, a Rihanna impression, yeah.
Tobey Maguire is one of those actors just annoys me.
Yeah, I mean, he's not great. Speaking of that, I was actually like carrying on Marvel TV shows and DC TV shows. I don't know if you've watched Gotham. Me and Jazz
I've watched a
that.
bit of it. I'm gonna try watching that again because I actually didn't mind that take on the whole Batman.
Yeah, them showing you like his growth into Batman and the Penguin.
Yeah,
They kind of fucked up the Joker storyline in that without saying too much because that is quite a fresh show. So I won't spoil that one, but that whole storyline was just fucked for me. Kind of lost interest after that. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all the Marvel movies covered. I've just got a couple more movies written down, like movies and TV shows written down. So, disclaimer, people might say this movie's shit, but me and Jazzy watched it like absolutely stoned off our faces. Maybe shouldn't say that if this is going on YouTube. I can blur that out or beep it out. It's fine. The movie is The Disaster Artist with James Franco and Seth Rogen.
That's a good movie. The original movie has been panned as one of, if not the worst movies ever made. And The Disaster Artist, I watched that a couple of months ago, and that was freaking spot on.
Yeah, just the I like, even though I was mega high when I watched it, the ending of that movie was incredible. Like, it was all leading up to that one like climatic moment, and I did not see it coming whatsoever. Like at the end of the movie, the ending of that was incredible. I mean, I can't really say it on Twitch what happens or on YouTube. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark. But I can't say what happens at the end of that movie because I think it's against TOS.
That was just. I remember reading about like seeing like clips and like the reviews of the original movie. As soon as I heard it was coming out,
he was like, I have to watch this.
After watching like the whole backstory and just everything.
Speaking of, sorry to interrupt. Speaking of Franco and Seth Rogen, what about the interview where they did the impression of Kim Jong-un? And they nearly started World War III over that movie with fucking North Korea. That shit was insane. Yeah. That was this decade. I can't believe that happened.
Another movie is similar to The Disaster Artist is with Eddie Murphy, which is Dolomite Is My Name.
I haven't seen that one.
It's about this comedian in the 1970s that wants to again make a movie, and he makes this movie and it's just so bad. And it's got like this love scene where like the roof collapses and like, and it's like, it makes it into the movie and it's like, it actually shows at the end, like the clips of the movie. And it's just,
I'll have to watch it if it's on Netflix Silence. I'll give that a watch.
Yeah, I watched it because I was like, I hadn't seen an Eddie movie in ages. I'm like, I vaguely remember this comedian. I watched it. I was like, this is freaking mint. But yeah, it's just like The Disaster Artist. It's crazy. It's like
there's so many TV shows and movies that we could talk about. Another movie I've got written down is The Wolf of Wall Street, with Leonardo DiCaprio and Margot Robbie. That movie, it's really long. It's like 3 hours long, but I fucking love that movie. Even though they over exaggerate what like Jordan Belfort did and like Hollywoodize it quite a lot. Just some of the things that they made out that he did, that Jordan Belfort did, was hilarious. Like, without meaning to offend anyone, there's one scene in it where they've got this giant like Velcro like target, kind of like a dartboard, and then they've got a dwarf, like a dwarf guy, like covered in like Velcro straps, and they like lift him up and throw him towards the towards this Velcro fucking dartboard kind of thing. And I'm like, I can't believe they've actually made out that Jordan Belfort, one of the biggest like Wall Street scammers, did that. Like, whoever directed that movie must have just a hilarious sense of humour to even make something like that up.
Oh, for sure. Just see what they can get away with.
I mean, for a TV show, I said about Mr. Robot, I've actually written down Game of Thrones as one of my best of this decade and most disappointing both at the same time. Yeah, it was Martin Scorsese. He can do what he wants. Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Yeah, Scorsese's kind of.
He's just released a new movie, hasn't he? The Irishman. I haven't watched that yet. It's on Netflix. I'll have to give that a watch. Yeah, I was talking about Game of Thrones. That was great all the way through, and then the ending just dive bombed. Fucking ruined it. Bran Stark. What the fuck? Like,
I was my own worst enemy for Game of Thrones. So I did a lot of traveling and started like 2011 when the first season came out. And I remember when the first season came out, I'm like, oh, what's this show? I started watching it, watched an episode every week, got to the last episode of season 1 and got like pretty much right to the end of it. And like, just like, there was a couple of minutes that I missed out. I'm like, this won't go anywhere. I was kind of like trying to find other people that watched it and no one knew about it. And then I'm like, all right, no worries. So I stopped thinking about it. And then like 12 or 18 months later, it's up to like season 3 or 4.
and
All these people are watching it. And I'm like, oh, so everyone is actually watching this show now. I'm like, there's no way. And like that stage, I'm like, there's no way I'm playing catch up for that much. Like I did not have the time.
I think there was like 1 week I took a holiday off work, maybe like 4 years ago, and I just watched every episode of it in like a week. But like Silence just said in the chat, it just went downhill the last 2 seasons. The writing just got atrocious. Like, they just tried to fit so much in such a small space of time. And the people who were like writing that, actually, I think they were supposed to have some involvement in a Star Wars project. I can't remember which one.
Oh yeah, I saw that the other week when then they all walked away. It was like a Star Wars TV show, I think.
I'm actually going to piss people off by saying this. I'm just going through like loads of TV shows at this point, but Star Wars, man, the last decade, after the Battle of the Bastards, they just lost the plot in Game of Thrones. Yeah, exactly. Like, none of it made any fucking sense. But I'm going to say something controversial while we're on the topic of Disney and Star Wars, but the last 3, I haven't seen 8 or 9, but after watching number 7, I don't even want to watch. I'm not going to lie. Like, the 7th Star Wars movie for me was dog shit. That's one film I went to the cinema to watch, and watching number 7 made me not want to watch number 8 or 9.
Yeah, like... 7 was pretty ordinary. I don't think it was bad as episode 1, 2, or 3, because the first 3 episodes they came out a few years ago were absolute bin fires. 8 was good, was better than 7, but the ones that I liked was the actual was Rogue One and
I can agree with that.
Sorry, I think those like that those 2 are definitely better than the actual episodes 7, 8. I've heard 9's meant to be pretty good.
A lot of people have said the same as what Silence just said. That 8 was worse than 7. That 8 was just the most dreadful Star Wars movie they've ever seen. So I'm like, I don't really want to force myself through number 8 if it's even worse than 7 that I didn't like, just to get to the end of it so 9 makes sense, you know? But I definitely... Rogue One, I saw and I can agree. I agree wholeheartedly that Rogue One was incredible. But I haven't actually watched the Han Solo movie. It's got Emilia Clarke in, I know that, who played Daenerys in Game of Thrones, but I haven't watched it. I feel like Harrison Ford has been Han Solo for so long that I just don't think there's anyone else that can really do a good job of playing him. And if I'm going into the movie thinking that, then I think I'm not going to be able to change my mind. Like, I'm too stubborn to change my mind to give this younger guy a chance. That's why I haven't watched Solo, like the Solo story. Because I'm not open-minded enough, and I know it. I'll just go in hating it that Harrison Ford is not Han Solo. I'll just be pissed off. I mean, looking at movies in 2010, from the 2010s, I think we've pretty much covered some of the best ones, unless anyone in chat's got any suggestions. After The Mandalorian, they just need to give Jon Favreau control of the Star Wars universe. Yeah, I mean, none of it makes any sense right now. There was another TV show or a movie I was going to mention just then, and I can't remember what it was. Oh, Breaking Bad. That show was incredible from start to finish. How we've not mentioned Breaking Bad so far. I think that started in the 2020.
I'm sure it did. And Breaking Bad was a.
It ended in 2013, so it started in 2008, and it finished in 2013. Breaking Bad was great. Still fits in the decade,
Every time I see the lead actor from Breaking Bad, I just picture him as
Heisenberg,
is as the dad as Hal from Malcolm in the Middle.
Yep, definitely. Bryan Cranston.
Yeah, or when he's like there's a interview that he did, and he was in like Pennsylvania or somewhere like that. They're like, oh, what this college student was like, what do you like so much about coming to Pennsylvania? He's got the mic. He's like, it's because I get to visit your mum, and then just drops the mic.
Christ.
Like, yeah, well played.
There was Better Call Saul, which was the spin-off. It's like a prequel to Breaking Bad. And then recently they just brought out a sequel about Jesse Pinkman. He's like accomplice, the guy that he teaches to cook the meth. And I thought both of them were quite disappointing. The first season of Better Call Saul was like average. Started getting good towards the end, but I just lost interest. Like I couldn't carry on watching it. And then we watched El Camino, and it was just kind of like unnecessary, I thought. There was no need for it to be made. Like, they could have left Jesse Pinkman's story where it was. I felt like there wasn't a lot of a slower pace in Better Call Saul. There's like one point where Saul tries to scam can't even remember his name now. That crazy like Mexican guy. I think he's Mexican. He basically tries to scam these two kids into doing like an insurance scam fraud, and they like try it on this old woman. What's his name? Salamanca. It's not Hector Salamanca. Yeah, that's literally the first episode. But yeah, they try and con like this old Mexican woman into it. Victor Salamanca, that's the one. They try and like scam this old Mexican woman into believing that she ran some kid over on a skateboard. and it turns out like her grandson is like one of the Mexican cartel from like a crazy guy from Breaking Bad, and it kind of all like ties in together. I watched like the first season of it. It was great first name, yeah, Victor. I just couldn't bring myself to finish it. But yeah, I think we've spoke like another hour on TV shows and movies. We've done like an hour on games, an hour on movies. Have you got anything on music? Your top 5 for music?
Not so much on music. My music taste changes a fair bit. I did have one album which was an absolute disappointment for me. So I'm a massive Incubus fan.
Right.
And they came out, it was like early 2010 with an album called If Not Now, When? And it was just, they took a soft pill. It was
Atrocious.
terrible. It was atrocious. Like they had like Dig, which was like early 2000s that came out after like A Crow Left of the Murder, which was still like, was a little bit different, kind of got me through the last bit of uni, but yeah, they just had this. It was not it was just not them at all, and it was just that was the one album that I could really think of, purely because I kind of like my music taste changes so much. But yeah, that was like the only one that I could really think of because, yeah, I said it's just kind of delving into what I listened to when and kind of the phases I've gone through to try and remember it all was just I
Yeah.
would have spent freaking forever on. But yeah, that was really probably the one disappointment. Probably they came across like Five Finger Punch Death, which was a band that I was quite happy to discover. Being a bit more metal, which was always good. Um, but yeah, probably it was kind of a weird decade of music where it was kind of I said my taste in music changed so much, and there wasn't really anything that stood out.
Silence doesn't like Five Finger Death Punch.
That's like them. But yeah, that was kind of it was weird.
Blood on the dance floor, Jazzy, get the fuck out. Seriously, you can't be for real. For me, like, there's so many good albums. Like, I listen to a lot of music, and I can't. We said 5, but if I was to talk about music, we'd be here another hour. I'm not gonna lie.
And that's what I was like. If I said, well, be like I would have spent like days and days and days and researching and going through it. And yeah, it was kind of but it was a weird kind of decade though. Kind of.
It's weird because when I was writing my favorite albums down for this decade, I wrote mine down, like the first ones that came to my head. And then I realised that when I'd written them down, I'd done them in chronological order, starting from the earliest first to now. So I put Wasting Light by the Foo Fighters. I don't know if you've heard that, but there isn't like a bad song on that album. There isn't one song that I skip. Like, I literally just let that album play all the way through. There's not many albums like that anymore, I don't think. There's like so many like just saturated albums where you just skip through songs because they've just got pointless shit on them.
And that's the problem that I have. Kind of where you'd actually go off and buy an album and there'd be 10 or 12 songs that you could sit there and listen from start to finish. You can't do that anymore, and that's what I probably found about this 10 years. I was listening to a lot of like old school albums. Like I was listening to a lot of old school like Everclear and Foo Fighters and Red Hot Chili Peppers and all these old school bands from like the late 90s and early 2000s, like Rage Against the Machine, and
have you had a listen to the latest Red Hot Chili Peppers album? It's the one without John Frusciante. He's actually coming back to the Red Hot Chili's.
See, if the way that I look at it, I'm very much a Red Hot Chili Peppers kind of fanatic. If it doesn't include John Frusciante, it's not Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's kind of seeing the guitarists come and go. They just, I don't know. There's something that John Frusciante brings to that group, which is absolutely crazy for their songwriting. And yeah,
once you put like him and Flea in a room together, I think they like kind of bounce off together.
My brother was in Japan not last year, 2018, and stayed in a house. There's a house in Japan where Red Hot, like, he purposely booked it so because he knew there was a piano that the Red Hot Chili Peppers stayed in his house and recorded. It might have been it was one of the later albums when John Frusciante was still there. It was Stadium Arcadium.
Right.
I was pretty sure Stadium Arcadium where they recorded it, and it's like he took a photo. It's like, here's the photo of where they all sat around and recorded songs. It's kind of like that's what they used to do with like John Frusciante. They'd go off and they'd go to obscure places to record albums, but where all the other guitarists would come in and be like, "Oh, we're just." I mean, they're great. They're great guitarists, but
they're not John Frusciante.
They're not. Their brain hasn't been completely fried out on 8 balls of cocaine.
Yeah,
like John Frusciante's like they just if they went off and did that much, like tried to catch him, they'd end up freaking dying.
And not just that as well. They don't have that chemistry that John Frusciante's had. He knows the people in that band. He's known them years. And that's it. Silence said, Tech 9. All 6s and 7s is the first one that came to his mind from this decade. You never skip anything on that album. And then Jazz said she didn't know any music since after she turned 18. So she's stuck in that emo phase, but along those lines. Speaking of emo, My Chemical Romance, while we're on music topic, actually made a comeback, and they still sound good live from what I've seen. And,
really?
And there's rumours that they might be releasing an album this year, which is insane after like 4 or 5 years away from the industry. To go on a tour and release an album and still sound good is pretty insane to me. Like, I put Wasting Light by Foo Fighters. This second album that I'm going to go into, Jazzy's going to take the piss out of me for this, but I don't give a shit. You still listen to Black Parade every once in a while. I think everyone does. You have to go back and relive your teenage emo angsty days, don't you, sometimes? This second album, I've literally played this shit on repeat. I've never stopped listening to it. Is AM by Arctic Monkeys. AM is short for Arctic Monkeys. That's the name of the album.
That is a good album. That's a really good album.
That's just one of those albums I never skip a song on it. There's a song for like every mood on it. There's a song like if you're feeling miserable. There's a song if you're feeling like you just want to slap everyone and you feel like you're the baddest person in the world, like the best person in the world, I mean to say. There's like ballads on there, love songs, like heavy guitar riffs at points, insanely ear-filling drum fills. The backing vocals on it are insane. Like, just everything about that album just pleases me. Like, my favourite album I think I've ever listened to. Which is kind of weird, because their newest album, they took, like, a really different approach to things. Like, I don't know, like, their music doesn't sound as guitar-focused or, like, instrument, like, drums. There's a lot of piano on this newest album, like a lot of synths, not as many backing vocals. It feels like they didn't write the songs together. It feels like Alex Turner just wrote all the songs, brought it to the rest of the band and went, here's what we're doing. And it kind of sounds like kind of shitty. But I like some of the songs off this newest album, but there's skippables on there, unlike AM from 2013, where every song's just like, I can listen to it on repeat.
That was 2013. I thought that was a lot later.
No, I thought about that. When I looked at the Foo Fighters Wasting Light, that was 2011. I couldn't believe it. I was like, holy shit, where does time go? And then weirdly, I've gone completely away from rock music. The Fray, Coldplay, bro. Victor, you're trolling, right? You've got to be trolling. You can't actually believe Coldplay.
I thought you were like, oh, I wasn't paying to like I'm gonna go off, and you said the Fray and Coldplay. I was like, the fuck are you on about?
Maybe not the Fray. Are you actually trolling with Coldplay? You have to be, right? Maybe. Oh god. I'll give Coldplay their due. Some of their older songs are bangers, but anything they've released this decade, just commercial, sell-out sounding dog shit. I'm not gonna lie. Can't think of any songs they've released this decade that actually stand out to me as anything like new or intuitive whatsoever. They just don't. Don't get me wrong, the songwriting's good, but a 4-year-old on a toy piano could write that shit. I'm not gonna lie.
It's like Imagine Dragons. They shit me.
With them, they've released a lot of commercial music, and that's like some of it's quite good, some of it's quite shit. Going away from like rock music though, one album I've put down is To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick's always a kind of.
I've put that album down because there's just so much that goes on it, but it's all still like fundamentally it's all rap still. So there's like a lot of jazz influences on it, like a lot of groove bass lines on there. The percussion on it's really good. He talks about issues like being a person of colour in America without being like cliche and taken away from the issue. Obviously I can't relate because I'm not a person of colour and I don't live in America. But I feel like a lot of African American people related to that album. You think Damn's better than To Pimp a Butterfly? Victor, you're definitely trolling me. You say Coldplay's good, then you think Damn's better than. You like Good Kid, Mad City? I could agree with Good Kid, Mad City being better than To Pimp a Butterfly, but I can't agree with Damn. Damn's so commercial, it's unreal. Like, I feel like. Speaking of actually, this ties in well. He also did the soundtrack for the Black Panther movie, which had some good songs on it. You had Pray For Me. I'm trying to think of more songs. Paramedic, that's one of my favourite songs from the Black Panther soundtrack. The Season. You're not trolling. Damn's good. I like some of the tracks off of Damn, but I don't like it more than To Pimp a Butterfly. There's some songs on To Pimp a Butterfly, if I'm walking down the street and I've got my earphones in, like, just certified, every song on that album's a banger. And the way he's written it, so I don't know if anyone knows, but that album was originally supposed to be called To Pimp a Caterpillar, which is an abbreviation of Tupac, which is why he was going to call it To Pimp a Caterpillar. If you haven't listened to the album, at the end of every song, he's actually... At the end of every song, he's writing a letter to Tupac, basically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and at the end of every song, he repeats himself. The letter gets a little longer each time at the end of every song. And then by the album, he actually has a conversation with Tupac at the end, about like modern issues and how things haven't changed from Tupac's era to now. How they've done it's like really smart. That's why I think the album's really good.
Yeah, that's quite clever songwriting and putting together an album so that actually happens.
Yeah, like the letter just gets longer at the end of every song, and for me that was great.
Yeah.
The way he did it was like tasteful as well. It wasn't like cliche. Like he could have done that really wrong and made it really shitty, and just made it terrible. Damn is, and like Silas just said, I do like Damn, and I like some of the songs off it. But for me, To Pimp a Butterfly is just the best album he's done, in my opinion. It's just got a bit of everything on it. It acknowledges some like issues tastefully. I haven't listened to the new Eminem album, but while we're talking about music and disappointing albums, what about that? I can't. It was so bad. I can't even remember what the album was called. There was an Eminem album that he released this decade with like it had Beyonce on it, Ed Sheeran.
Oh yeah.
What was that? I can't remember what that album was called. I actually have it on my phone because I have his whole discography, but what was it called? That album? It's really bad. Revival, yeah. He had Recovery. Was it Recovery as well? Was that in the 2010s? While we're talking about disappointing music, let's quickly Google it. When did that? Yeah, that came out 2010. So right at the beginning of the decade, he had Recovery, which was like atrocious. It had Pink on it, which was like the only good song on the album. Some people even don't like that song. Won't Back Down with Pink. That was like the only good song on there. He released that absolute cringy commercial Not Afraid on that album. Like, I appreciate Eminem's attempt at singing and like releasing a song that anyone can relate to, but just the commercial bullshit on that album. Like, he's probably going to fucking copyright strike this. Not that Eminem's ever going to watch this podcast, but like, it's just drony lyrics on Not Afraid. That chorus was shit.
Oh, that's the Recovery's the one with Love the Way You Lie.
Yeah, it is. That song's good, but again,
it's good, but it just got played to shit.
Played. 20. Oh, actually, there is some all right songs on Recovery. There's Cold Wind. I'm looking at the track list now. You've got Cold Wind Blows. Talking to Myself. That song's fucking garbage. I guess I keep talking to my... Yeah, he just keeps saying it again and again and again. Like, you just skip the song. He put out 4 albums in the 2010s and 1.5 of them were good. What else have we got? Oh, there's that god-awful song on Recovery where he's put Going Through Changes by Ozzy Osbourne on the chorus. And he raps about losing proof from D12 and how he fucking tries to overdose and how his daughter finds him in the bathroom. Like, I get it, you're trying to like make and explain what's going on in your life, but it just like he just droned on. There's No Love with Lil Wayne. Spacebound was another song that was just massively overplayed, like Love the Way You Lie. Just atrocious. And then you've got Revival, what was on Revival? Let's have a look. Just looking at the track list now. You've got Walk on Water with, I think that was the track with Beyonce, wasn't it? Just fucking dog shit. Eminem's just, I think he fell off a lot this decade. I think we're kind of used to that Eminem where his wordplay is like really good and he wasn't afraid to fucking like say anything or call anyone out.
Yeah, but now it's kind of like when he started doing tracks with Beyonce and Ed
Sheeran,
and
like commercialized shit.
Yeah, there's like Alicia Keys. Like Alicia Keys is pretty dope. Like she's got some good songs, but she can sing. But
like Silence just said,
kinda...
you listen to Revival a couple of times, you don't remember any of it. There's nothing. Marshall Mathers LP 2, yeah, there were some good tracks on that. I have that one on my phone in the discography. But yeah, like you look at the track list for Recovery and Revival. He did that Remind Me, where he samples what's her freaking name now? I Love Rock and Roll. What's her name? Can never remember her name.
Oh, Britney Spears?
No, I Love Rock and Roll. What? I can never remember her name. Joanne Jett, that's the one. Joanne Jett, that's the one. Joanne Jett, like, there's a song where he samples her on Revival, and it just made me cringe. In Your Head, he samples the Cranberries, Zombie.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. It's like that album was just dire. Let's see what other Eminem albums there was. I haven't listened to that new one that he released. You've got the Marshall Mathers LP. That was actually before Revival. Let's have a look at the track list on that. What was on it? Bad Guy, Parking Lot Skit, Rhyme or Reason, There's No Rhyme. No. Berserk. That was actually a banger, that song, Berserk, I can't lie. The shit's about to kick. Yeah, that is a banger, that song. Rap God. Survival. Wasn't Survival on the soundtrack for I think it was Call of Duty Ghosts, was it? Or am I thinking of the wrong song? You've got Headlights, where he talks about his... You've got Monster with Rihanna. Friends with the man. Yeah. Yeah, Silence, you're right. There is some good songs on that Marshall Mathers LP too. And then he released that Kamikaze. That was where like everyone was calling him out for how shit Revival was. And he kind of just goes fucking ham on everyone. I think that was like back to when Love Game, yeah, where Love Game with Kendrick, that is a good song actually, where he talks about leaving his girlfriend and she cuts the brakes on his car and shit like that. And then you've got Kamikaze, where he literally just says anything about anyone. This was around the time where he did the Donald Trump diss, wasn't it, I think? You've got Ringer, Kamikaze, Nice Guy, Venom. He did that song with Not Alike, that's a good one, with Joyner Lucas, I think it is. I'm literally just going through Eminem in the last 10 years. And then we've got this newest album that he's released. What the fuck even is it called? It's Songs to Get Murdered To, I think it's called. Something along them lines. Yeah, it's Songs to Be Murdered To. I haven't listened to any of it. I would play some of the albums. Or Not Alike is Royce the 5'9", yeah. I would listen to some of the songs on stream and sort of like get a live reaction, but YouTube, when I put it over there, will copyright strike me. So we can't really do that. But yeah, I was talking about To Pimp a Butterfly. Another album I've got written down is Swimming by Mac Miller. His 2018 release before he passed away. Looking at the track list for that, I've been listening to it a lot recently. He's actually just, well, his producer and his family have just released like a posthumous album, or posthumous after his death. I've listened to a little bit of it, not a lot. I know Victor, I think you and Big Steak were talking about Mac Miller, Silenced as well. Looking for the track list. I don't think there is a song I skip on this Mac Miller album. Come Back to Earth, Hurt Feelings, What's the Use? I love What's the Use. The bass lick on that song is brilliant. You've never really been a Mac Miller fan? Perfecto, Self Care, that's his one of his most well-known songs. Wings, that whole album's amazing. To be fair, it's got a lot of fast upbeat songs on there with good bass licks, and then it's got some chilled songs on there. And then I'm sticking with
album.
Yeah, go on.
That I just checked that I didn't realize came out in the 2010s was Daft Punk.
Oh, Victor will like you. He loves Daft Punk. What was that album called?
That it had Pharrell on them.
I'm trying to think what the is it Random Access Memories?
Yeah, Random Access
2013.
Memories. Yeah, they came out. Yeah, so they dropped the worldwide freaking release of that album was at a festival in this town called Weewai in New South Wales. It's this little coastal town, and yeah, they dropped the album there, which would have been pretty intense. That was good because it's.
They dropped the album live.
It wasn't live. It was they weren't even there. They got a DJ to.
All right, do, got yourself.
Of the album, the launch of it was weird how they did it from memory. But
they've got Give Life Back to Music by Nile Rodgers. Well, with Nile Rodgers on that album. The Game of Love, which was quite good. Lose Yourself to Dance with Pharrell. Get Lucky with Pharrell. That was one of the biggest songs of that year, wasn't it? If not.
Yeah.
I think that released at the same, Jesus, now we're looking through Daft Punk, I'm actually thinking of loads of pop songs that came out. You've got Bruno Mars. He had a big, absolutely massive decade. I can't even be mad. The guy dropped some bangers. 24 Karat Magic. That's what I like. What was that other? Girl Sent You Hallelujah. What is that song? I can't remember the fucking name of the song.
Uptown Funk.
Uptown Funk, yeah. I can't remember what year that was in. I think that was 2013 as well, because I swear they released that at the same time as Daft Punk. Holy shit, no, apparently that released later than that. 2015. 2014, 2015 it says as a single. Yeah, you can't deny Bruno Mars bringing back funk. A lot of people have said this is quite a controversial topic. A lot of people said that he was using black music as a way to get famous when he's not actually black. That he was doing black music a disservice. What the fuck is black music anyways, man? You can't you can't say, oh, that music's ours. It's like saying white people shouldn't do rap or whatever. Funk isn't predominantly, it predominantly was a black genre, in the 70s and the 80s and whatnot, but you can't say, Bruno Mars is using black music as a way to get famous.
Yeah. There's been a lot of there's a dude that I saw live years ago, who's a blues guitarist, and he's this white guy, and he's freaking. You listen to him, and you think that he was like BB King or someone like that, or Muddy Waters, but yeah, it's this white dude. It's yeah, you can play music. Do what you're good at.
Bruno Mars has had an insane 2010s. He released Doo-Wops and Hooligans in 2010, I think that says, according to Wikipedia. he released Unorthodox Jukebox, and he did a Super Bowl halftime show. And then he released that newest album with 24 Karat Magic, That's What I Like, Uptown Funk. I remember there was a point, like, I think Uptown Funk released when I, like, just after I turned 18 and was legal enough to go out to drink. Every fucking nightclub I went in played that song religiously, at least 3 times a night. Just because it was such a banger. No matter where you went, that song was on. And everyone knew the lyrics, like, religiously. You could not hear it wherever you went. It was insane. Like, it was annoying at times. Like, you just could not fucking go anywhere without hearing that song.
I worked in a nightclub, and I'm trying to think. It was the same time. It was either My Humps by the Black Eyed Peas.
Oh, Jesus.
What was the other song?
I did move. You're right, Vic. I did move to Uptown Funk, especially when I was, like, fucking hammered in a nightclub somewhere. And yeah, Silence, we have to put some respect on Adele's name, actually. As much as I hate her fucking songwriting, and it goes right through me, and it's all, like, about her ex-boyfriend, like, all the same, like, over 50 million albums is a lot of albums, and she is laughing all the way to the bank at this point, no doubt about it. Weirdly, she's actually in a relationship now with a grime artist from England called Skepta. It's such a weird turn of events. Like, he's a grime artist who raps about being hood as fuck and stabbing people and fucking police trying to arrest him and shit. And he ends up with Adele, who raps, well, like, sings about her ex-boyfriend ditching her and shit. Like, crazy, absolute crazy, like, turn of events. You do have to respect what she did. Another artist who a lot of people don't like and talk shit on is Drake. But you have to respect what that man has done in the 2010s. Like, he's made music a worse place to be. I'm not gonna, like,
Yeah.
but also he's dropped some absolute he's dropped some banger songs as well, like, I can't lie. Let's have a look at his discography. What did he release in? He released a lot of albums in 2010s. Holy shit. He dropped Thank Me Later. He dropped More Life. He dropped Take Care. Nothing Was the Same. He dropped Views. And in 2018, he dropped Scorpion, which was like a you don't like Drake, but the bangers. Yeah, exactly. Like, just looking through Scorpion, some of the tracks on there. You've got God's Plan, 8 out of 10. Hold on, let's have a look at the track list. You've got Survival, which is great. I was talking to McNeth, actually. I don't think he's here right now. Sometimes he does lurk. No, he's not here right now, but I was talking to McNeth, another streamer, about Drake and the Scorpion album. Survival, Non-Stop, Elevate, Emotionless, Mob Ties, 8 out of 10. I'm Upset, which is, like, quite commercial. He raps about people trying to kill him. Basically saying, like, they put 50 grand on his head and that he's offended, that's all they tried. And then eventually he raps through the song about how they go up to 500k to try and kill him, and he says, at least someone tried their best. No, I mean, come on, who's trying to kill Drake? Let's be honest. He's not a gangster, is he? God's Plan, which is commercial, Can't Take a Joke. What was that fucking... In My Feelings... No, is it In My Feelings? Where everyone was doing that challenge, the In My Feelings challenge. I don't know if you've seen it. Where they're, like, playing the song and then they're dancing outside the car door. That challenge was stupid. I saw people walking into lampposts. People, like, hitting the brakes on the car and walking into the car doors. Shit like that. Some funny memes stemmed from that song anyways. But yeah, you got to put some respect on Drake's name, even though. Oh, how many albums did he actually sell? Hold on. I need to know now.
And he got his break.
Yeah, he got
Degrassi.
Yeah, Degrassi. How many albums has he sold in the? You see, you can't really look 2010s. Like just 2010s. His latest album sold 381,000 copies in the US alone. That's not counting any other countries. Views, which was 2016, did 1,730,000 just in the US alone, and it did 387,000 in the UK. He released another one in 2013 that did 1.7 million in the US. 250,000 in. Jesus Christ. He hasn't sold anywhere near as much as Adele, but that's still a lot of albums to sell. Like just short of 15 million, I think, when you add it all together. Just trying to think, is there any more like pop music artists we've forgotten that have had a good 2010s that I can think of? Pop music from the 2010s. Oh, fucking hell, Justin Bieber. Begrudgingly, I have to admit there are some of his songs that I don't mind.
There's a couple of. I'm trying to think what he did one with who was it? DJ Snake. He's done a couple of recently that if someone said that, if someone didn't say it was Justin Bieber, you'd be like, oh, the vocals are actually alright, it's actually a good song.
So many streams count as sales now as well, yeah, Victor. I think it's like 5 streams count as a sale. I'm not sure. It's so many streams, I can't tell. I can't remember. Yeah, we've had Justin Bieber, we've had fucking...
One Direction.
One Direction, yeah. I mean, the list set Taylor Swift, Tay. We've had some.
Oh, T-Swizzle.
T-Swizzle, yeah. We've had some garbage music released. This fucking. I actually forgot a movie. One of my favourite movies, going back to that, was Kingsman. How did I forget that movie?
I haven't seen it.
Just came back to my head. It's kind of like a knockoff Bond movie. Yeah, Kingsman was brilliant. Talking about like disappointments of this decade, though, the second one wasn't as good. But yeah, I thought I'd just throw that one in there. That was one of my favourite movies of this decade, if not my favourite. It's about like a lowly English kid that lives in like what you would call the hood in England, like where they all wear tracksuits, people get stabbed. We call them chavs here. And they do like a knockoff, kind of like James Bond old style, like spy movie out of it. Yeah, the church scene where I can never remember his name now. With Freebird, where he like kills everyone. What's his freaking name now? I'm so bad at remembering names of actors. Colin Firth, that's the one. He's English. I should have known that. Yeah, but that whole movie was great from start to finish. But quickly wrapping music up, I said Swimming by Mac Miller. I put Brockhampton, Saturation, 1 to 3. They're all called Saturation, just 1, 2, and 3. I've only just recently got into them, but I've been listening to them albums on repeat, and then they released an album like 6 months ago that was just shit. I hadn't even bothered to listen to it again and give it another chance. It was just garbage. Garbage.
And that's the problem. The artists go on a heater, and then they'll just have an album which is just shit.
Just a stinker, yeah. Like Brockhampton, they're like a pop, rap, hip hop group, and like they drop some bangers with like real catchy hooks, and then like really good like rap verses. And then last but not least on my albums, to wrap it up, I've put Catfish and the Bottlemen, The Balcony.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you've heard of Catfish and the Bottlemen, they're freaking cool. I think it's 7 was one of my favorite songs.
Yeah. They released like a great first album. Then the second album had some skippables on it, and it was kind of like I'd still listen to it, but it did have some songs I would skip on there. And then they just released an album at the end of last year that there wasn't a catchy song on it. They were all stinkers, in my opinion.
Yeah, okay.
So like the first 2 albums were really good. Liam Gallagher, actually, he released an album last year called For What It's Worth, I think it's called. What's it, For What It's Worth?
My brother went and saw Liam Gallagher at the end of last year.
It's not quite like Oasis level of bangers, but there is some good songs on there.
The Wombats had a couple of good albums.
Yeah, it's called As You Were, that Liam Gallagher. I haven't actually listened to any of the Wombats albums. I've listened to that first one with Let's Dance to Joy Division, Moving to New York. I haven't listened to anything after that, I'm not going to lie. Maybe I should give them another listen. There's that Liam Gallagher album. Another Alex Turner, his side project, The Last Shadow Puppets.
Yeah, okay.
That's his side project. They dropped like a new album this decade that I really liked. I don't skip many of the songs on there. I'm trying to give everyone an honourable mention. Queens of the Stone Age, they released a new album.
When did they release an album?
What year was it? I don't think it was as good as some of their older stuff, actually.
Yeah, because I remember they did release one, but I didn't think it was as good as...
It's called Villains, and they released it in 2017. They also released Like Clockwork in 2013. I liked some of the songs on Like Clockwork. Let's have a look at the track list. I Sat by the Ocean, If I Had a Tail, Smooth Sailing, My God Is the Sun. Yeah, some good songs on that album. The Way You Used to Do was a good song, but the rest of Villains wasn't as good. Yeah, I thought, yeah. Yeah, I agree with that, Silenced.
It might have been the Villains that they came back with that, and it got freaking demolished in Australia with all the reviews.
Yeah, like Silence said, there's like one good song on it that sounded kind of commercial, and then the rest of it was kind of trash. Thinking back to it, Feet Don't Fail Me Now, that's on there. That's a good song. Feet Don't Fail Me Now. Yeah. Like 2 good songs on that album. That's probably about it. Mark Ronson produced that album. Villains.
Really?
Yeah, I just read that on Wikipedia. Mark Ronson produced that Queens of the Stone Age album, Villains.
It's like,
never knew that. We've covered movies. I think we've literally spoke on like every category for an hour, which is good. Nice long podcast. We've talked shit about Marvel movies. Trying to think if there's anything we've missed. We talked mad shit about how bad Eminem's been this decade.
Yeah. It's like Skrillex co-produced a heap of songs on Incubus's last album.
Really? Yeah, Skrillex. He was in a rock band before he was Skrillex. I can't remember what they're called. What was that freaking band he was in called? I can never actually remember his name. His actual name. Skrillex. Sonny John Moore, that's his name. What was that band he was in? Let's have a look. So actually, it's not too... too like far-fetched for it. From first to last, that's the band he was in, Jazz. Jazz just saved the day there. So it's not too far... Because he produces all the music in Skrillex, and he used to be in a rock band. So it's not too far-fetched that he produced a rock album. But it's weird that Incubus would choose him.
Yeah, when it was like a last... I think it was like a last freaking roll the dice of who they're going to produce a couple of songs. But I think Skrillex might have done something for Korn as well.
They did an album with Korn, actually. Skrillex, he did an album with Korn. It was like a dubstep, like metal sort of crossover.
Yeah, it was weird. That might have been like...
That released in 2011. 2011, that album. I actually like some of the songs on that album, now you mention it.
It wasn't too bad of an album.
It had that Get Up. The Path of Totality, it's called.
Yeah.
Let's have a look through it. Chaos Lives in Everything. Kill Mercy, My War. Narcissistic Cannibal. That was Korn. And Skrillex. There's Get Up, You're So Sick. Yeah. That was actually a good album. I might have to re-listen to that. Going back over it. Sometimes them weird crossovers are good. It was like Jay-Z and the Linkin Park album.
Yeah, that was a good mashup album.
That was like 2004. Holy shit. I'll have been about 6 when that happened. Like 8 when that happened. That's insane to think about. Oh. I think, from what I've got on this piece of paper, I've covered everything. I don't know how long we've been streaming for, actually. Let me look.
I don't know either.
Maybe like 3 hours, maybe? Let's look.
Far out.
It's been fun, though, actually. The overlay looks good. Looks good.
It's been good.
2 hours and 52 minutes, according to the uptime. That's nice and long. This can go on YouTube as well, because I've not put anything like copyright on it. I might have to beep a few words out, so... I don't know, actually. It should be fine. We've not said anything too out there that YouTube will hate me for.
Put it as mature content and not intended for children, and we'll be alright.
Yeah, exactly. We should be fine. Thank you for coming on, man. It's been fun. I think this went actually really smoothly for the first time.
Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, when it was...
Link my YouTube. Yeah, I'll put a link in there now quickly. There's nothing on it yet, but I'm going to put the Secret Santa video on there. The Secret Santa video that we did, and this podcast video as well. This should be right. Oh, I can't even copy and hold on. I'll have to... I can upload this straight away as well, from what I remember. I'll have to do it through... See if this works, chat. I need to make a command. I'm sorry. I'll make a... My commands aren't working in OBS. Does that work, chat? Let's see if that works.
Yeah, it works.
Sweet. Yeah, if you've just tuned in and you've missed the podcast, you can either watch the VOD here or go to that link I've just thrown in the chat for you all. You drop a sub there, that's where I'm going to put it. I'm going to import it over there. I'm going to put the Secret Santa video up as well, because I've got that downloaded. I wanted to try and get the Twitch chat from that on the video, but I can't work out how to do it, so I might just upload it. Silenced, if you want to watch it on YouTube or you want to watch it on the VOD here, the VOD won't be muted on Twitch because we've not played any copyright music. We've not watched anything copyright. I was actually going to put, you guys can't see the screen, but the bottom left here where the chat box is right now. I was going to put like a little media box there where we could watch stuff or listen to stuff, but YouTube are just so like tight about letting you do anything with copyright, so
Pretty finicky.
I decided not to. Yeah, I think to get like any monetization on YouTube, you need like 1,000 subscribers and like 4,000 views on a video. But I'm probably going to put this on Spotify and Apple Music as well, because I think the audio quality's been quite good from what I can tell.
Good.
So yeah, we can find someone to raid real quick. I was going to play some games, like restart the stream and then play some games, but we've podcasted for quite a while, so I think we'll find someone to raid. Ed, as always, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for being the first guest on the FozCast.
Thanks for having me, man. Muchly appreciated.
We've had some good conversations. I enjoyed talking about games and movies and TV shows, to be fair.
That was good. Yeah, I kind of didn't do enough research on the music, but yeah, the movies, music and games were.
We touched on like the streaming platforms as well, which was fun, like Amazon, Netflix. We didn't really plan to do that, but they got tied in there, so it was quite nice. It wrapped itself in nicely. Any suggestions who will drop a raid on? Shall we drop a raid on like another podcast, or shall we find a random
No, really, the
Let's see if there's anyone podcasting. There's Jezza Blackbird. That's one of your friends, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it's one of.
Shall we see if we can find a random podcast to raid then? Let's have a look. We've got Lunacast. They've got 4 viewers. They look like pretty similar to like our format here. We can go drop them a raid if you want. We'll go drop them a raid. Let's see what they're about.
Sounds good.
Ed, thank you for being here. Silenced. It's Victor, Jazzy, Zambies. Who else? Grumpy, thank you for tuning in. Ron, Polly, thank you for lurking, guys. I appreciate you. Ed for being here once more. Jazzy for doing.
Thanks for having me. Thanks very much, coming.
Jazzy for doing
Jazzy
the visual.
Yeah,
for the tea and doing the visuals for me. Smaller, thank you for doing the. Thank you for doing the jingle. I'll play it once more for you guys, then I'll drop the raid. I think they're called Lunacast. No, that's not the right person. Hold on. What are they called? Where have they gone? Luna Castaways. I nearly raided the wrong person there. Raid Luna Castaways. I'll put my my schedule up for the next week. I'll try and get us another guest. If not, Ed, you're welcome on whenever you want. I don't know what we'll talk about next time, but we'll do it. Look out for this on YouTube, on Instagram, Twitter. Let's play the jingle once more, and then I'll raid. It is Smaller's jingle, yeah. You got troubles, put them in the past. Cause you're free at last. Time to have a blast. You don't know it was so glad that you asked. It's the FozCast. Right, we're going to pass the raid on. See you later, guys. check for the YouTube video, check for the schedule this week. I shall see you there.